Breaking moments ago, TMZ was reporting that the Bitcoin account allegedly set up to accept the funds, the money, in exchange for Nancy Guthrie remains empty at this hour. An apparent ransom deadline of 5 p.m. Arizona time is fast approaching. So, yeah, now we're 4.5 hours away. You and I were talking off camera, and I know you can't share every detail. But when it comes to even an IP address to figure out the ransom note and maybe what's coming next in this whole thing after that 5 p.m. deadline, you can get to that. You can't tell us every detail, but what can you share?
Right. So there's different elements that we're looking at right now. You're looking at the ransom emails, right? That's in and of itself its own topic.
Let's start there.
The masked IP addresses. People think, you know, I'm going to send an email. It's going to be masked. No one's ever going to track me down. False. The FBI has the ability to unmask IP addresses. I know because I've done it, and I've seen it happen in large cases that have gone to court and been federally upheld, and so it is absolutely possible. But what it requires is digging through certain layers of information. That does take time, but it is possible. Do
you think 9 days are enough time?
That's a good question. Like I said, there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we're not aware of, and so law enforcement is not going to show their hand right now. They're not going to show everything that they're capable of doing. Certainly not the FBI. Because that's what they do. They keep it quiet and confidential to maintain the integrity of the investigation. But I think you've got the ransom email. Again, we've all been talking about it. It's either legitimate, they're a hoax, or they're a false flag and a distraction. And we're about to find out. Those ransom emails may have absolutely nothing to do with Nancy and her whereabouts. But on the flip side, they may. And that's, again, what the family's working with the FBI to determine what's the legitimacy of this. Now, when we look at, you know, the masking of the IP addresses, that's one way to mask their identity. The other way that everyone's talking about is Bitcoin. Back in the day, it was, hey, we'll give you cash. Hey, we'll send it here. Not anymore. Bitcoin is highly sophisticated for individuals, and it is something that we knew that in the FBI we were getting trained on their techniques, and they use it for a purpose. But every single transaction is recorded and documented on the blockchain.
Just read my lips with everything I said earlier.
You can see that. But what you may not be able to see initially is a non-traceable wallet. But again,
but what I said was something like, we are now in the most critical hours of the Nancy Guthrie kidnapping case. An 84-year-old grandmother still missing. A ransom deadline is now just a few hours away. And the FBI is still scrambling to find the one real signal buried in a storm of hoaxes, false demands, and somewhere a person knows exactly where Nancy is. Sorry about that. I jumped into this one pretty quick today. I appreciate you guys. President Trump says investigators have strong clues. We've seen none of these. Are they holding it close to the chest? There is a new video that Savannah Guthrie has put out, and we're going to watch that in just a second. Now that I have the microphone on, thank you.
Techniques and things that the FBI can do, they can get to the bottom of that. But the key is, if you ever want to cash in that money, so let's say you get $6 million, what good is that if you can't actually utilize that? In order to cash that in with a U.S. institution, you're going to have to provide a name, a social security number, identifiers in order to use that. You could let it sit in the wallet indefinitely, but what good is that? Or, you know, again, I'm not going to go into any ideas. There's other things that, again, the FBI, I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay. Yeah, I think you better. So, Paul, the end-to-end transaction, if you will, the beginning of it with the money in the account hasn't happened. What does that mean?
And so they're just saying right now about the money in the account. And we're going to take a quick look right here at the new Savannah Guthrie video. I've got this right here. This just came out. This is from just 8 to 10 minutes ago, and let's have a look.
Hi there, everybody. I wanted to come on and just share a few thoughts as we enter into another week of this nightmare. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for all of the prayers and the love that we have felt, my sister and brother and I, and that our mom has felt. Because we believe that somehow, some way, she is feeling these prayers and that God is lifting her even in this moment and in this darkest place. We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where. And we need your help. So I'm coming on just to ask you, not just for your prayers, but no matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, if you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation, and we need your help.
Let's listen to that again.
Hi there.
And this is just the most recent. This was just done within moments of right now. This is the newest video from Savannah Guthrie imploring the public, even if you're far from Tucson. That to me, when she says far from Tucson, that tells me something. It says that they don't think that maybe she's even in Tucson or if she's even still alive. So let's listen to this again.
Everybody. I wanted to come on and just share a few thoughts as we enter into another week of this nightmare. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for all of the prayers and the love that we have felt, my sister and brother and I, and that our mom has felt. Because we believe that somehow, some way, she is feeling these prayers and that God is lifting her even in this moment and in this darkest place. We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where. And we need your help. So I'm coming on just to ask you, not just for your prayers, but no matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, if you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement.
It's crazy.
We are at an hour of desperation, and we need your help.
And remember, we are at a point where coming up in less than 3 hours, about 2 hours and 45 minutes, is the deadline, or otherwise known as the death line, since there was a threat made to this 84-year-old woman. And put a 1 in the chat if you feel like she's still alive. Put a 2 in the chat if you feel like she is not. All right, so we're going to listen to this again.
Hi there, everybody.
Because this is the first time that I've seen this. This just came up. Brand new video from Savannah Guthrie.
I wanted to come on and just share a few thoughts as we enter into another week of this nightmare. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for all of the prayers and the love that we have felt, my sister and brother and I, and that our mom has felt. Because we believe that somehow, some way, she is feeling these prayers and that God is lifting her even in this moment and in this darkest place.
Wow. This is tough.
We believe our mom is still out there.
Well,
we need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where. And we need your help. So I'm coming on just to ask you, not just for your prayers, but no matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, if you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation, and we need your help.
I'm going to run this a couple times because I'm looking into this a little bit differently. I don't know if anybody else is. I believe that she is giving away some clues when she says that they're not, if you're not even near Tucson, there have been some billboards put up in as far away as Texas for the return of Nancy Guthrie. So let's watch this again.
Hi there, everybody. I wanted to come on and just share a few thoughts as we enter into another week of this nightmare. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for all of the prayers and the love that we have felt, my sister and brother and I, and that our mom has felt. Because we believe that somehow, some way, she is feeling these prayers and that God is lifting her even in this moment and in this darkest place. We believe our mom is still out there.
This is so strange.
We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where. And we need your help. So I'm coming on just to ask you, not just for your prayers, but no matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, if you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you,
this is brand new.
That you report to law enforcement.
From less than half an hour ago, put out on Savannah's Instagram.
We are at an hour of desperation, and we need your help.
So back to some of the other news here. I mean, has the FBI fumbled something else? Is that what's happening here? Has the FBI effed this up too? Okay.
Yeah, well, I think it means
now
that
this article right here that we're watching, I call it an article. This story is about how there are no funds in the Bitcoin account that was named in the ransom note.
No level of trust there from the Guthrie family because they have not gotten any proof of life. And I think that there's got to be still some real question as to whether or not the two notes are coming from the people who actually have their mother, because proof of life is comparatively simple.
There's been no proof of life as of yet.
Very idiosyncratic.
And that's very important in these cases, the proof of life, right? Proof of life. Are they going to get her on the phone? Are they going to ask her questions? Did they ask her questions before they took her so that they could be prepared for this just in case she passed in their custody, right? No, that's not TMZ. That was just directly from Savannah's Instagram account.
From, let's say, Savannah's childhood or something like that, even if you don't want to put the mother on camera or something like that.
And I'm going to play that new video a couple times so everybody can see it. Come on in. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Let's get this live stream out there so other people can see it.
Worried about the comms. Is it traceable? Is the metadata going to show something that the FBI can pull out? And the good news here is that you got the FBI who are the best at this. So that's one of the
AI.
At this AI stuff, at tracing AI, because you can use AI against AI, tracing the Bitcoin, all that stuff. That goes on. Think of it as a pocketbook that everybody can see. The problem for them is that when you go to it, you can't buy, groceries with Bitcoin yet anyway. So when they go to take it out, that's, as I was talking about earlier, that's the vulnerability. And that's the thing that you are hoping you can see at some point. But as I said earlier,
yes,
if it happens someplace that
you
can't get to, North Korea or something, then you're sunk.
They are behind me.
I mean, do we have to think, and Nicole, you may be able to answer this, do we have to think that the letters that they have, these two letters, that the FBI must think that there's some validity to them? Well, you can look at it two ways.
I mean, is she showing no emotion, or is she just exhausted? Is she just plain and simply exhausted?
Because as we've seen, there's already been arrests for people who have sent fake notes. So, there must be some level there where they feel like there's some validity here, or otherwise, wouldn't they have made arrests already? Like, if they can figure out that some are fake, why do we not know a little bit more about these at this point.
Welcome, everybody.
Right.
Welcome.
So again, without going into the details of what's happening behind the scenes, they're not going to close the door on any potential piece of evidence. Let's say that they think something is or is not legitimate. The FBI, their key is open communication. They want as many data points of evidence digitally in whatever format. So let's say every time they post on Instagram, and then there's a response, and then there's an email. Every single thing is a digital trail of potential evidence. And so a lot of times you may think, oh, they're going to solve the case off of this particular point, when in reality, what the FBI is doing is they're taking all the digital artifacts and they're piecing it together in a timeline. And they're looking, okay, how can we continue to keep the lines of communication open? Again, they may have information that this is not accurate. Maybe the Guthries don't intend to pay this. We don't
Bad
exactly
Bunny
know
joke.
what's
That's
happening,
original.
But I promise you the key is communication. And what the Guthries want is they want immediacy. What the offenders want is they have been looking for time. And what Savannah did in that video, they basically are pushing their hand and they're saying, let's go. You are no longer in control. We are. You have run out of time and we are willing to pay. So put up or shut up.
So this is about engagement with whomever may have her. But you know, it's interesting too, Emily, if it turns out that nothing happens at 5 p.m., they don't pay the money, they don't have any more engagement, then perhaps what you have is a situation where that was
They're
real.
saying
Now
they don't
can
have
focus
that,
on something
that they don't
else.
have that video.
Essentially ruling out.
Yeah.
But wait, I just want to sort of clarify what you said because I want to make sure I understand.
You guys in the chat, you guys think there's foul play? Do you think there's foul play here with the son-in-law? Could there be some kind of gambling debt, some debt to some cartel member? I mean, there are so many possibilities here. So we're going to talk about the emotional toll this is taking on the Guthrie family. Here we go.
Going to take you back out live to Tucson, Arizona, the home of Nancy Guthrie. Investigators are racing against the clock with just a little over 1 day left until the second reported ransom deadline expires. This afternoon, sheriff's deputies were seen walking around the back and sides of Nancy's home. They spent several minutes probing what appeared to be a couple of manholes near the house, possibly part of the septic system. Let's bring in.
This is when they were searching yesterday through the septic system there, searching perhaps for a body, for any artifacts, any belongings.
Former Secret Service agent Chuck Marino. Chuck, it's a question I ask all of you experts, which is, you know, as you look at everything that's going on in this case, what stands out in your mind? What questions do you have?
This seems to be taking an extraordinarily amount of time to resolve. You know, time here historically in these types of cases is not good for anybody in terms of outcome for these cases. But as far as the perpetrators
no
go,
proof of life as of yet.
Truly and purely,
there's been no proof of life.
In exchange to bring Nancy Guthrie back to her family, in exchange for money or cryptocurrency in whatever form they want to take it. Getting this done faster rather than later is to their advantage. And for it going this long, you are giving investigators the upper hand here to be able to hope that the perpetrators either slip up or that the technology can be exploited to track these perpetrators down.
And
so
you would figure that, you know, that the FBI would have the technology to do this, that they could even get with other, you know, 3-letter agencies like the CIA, like the NSA.
There's been no proof of life right now, which is very concerning, which means originally this could have been a money grab, but something may have gone wrong early on with the person that they kidnapped, and they're unable to provide proof of life.
That's what I think.
Or this has been one of the greatest diversionary tactics in history, and ransom has never been the goal of the perpetrators.
Right.
Yeah. Early in your comments,
and that's a possibility. That's a very interesting statement, that ransom was never the goal, that it was absolutely never part of their plan. We're going to jump back to Savannah's brand new video here. This is recent. It's within the past 30 minutes from the Instagram account of Savannah Guthrie. So let's have a listen.
Hi there, everybody. I wanted to come on and just...
And she's come on here without any of the siblings. That could also be an indicator as to where this investigation is going.
Share a few thoughts as we enter into another week of this nightmare. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for all of the prayers and the love that we have felt, my sister and brother and I, and that our mom has felt. Because we believe that somehow, some way, she is feeling these prayers and that God is lifting her even in this moment and in this darkest place. We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where.
I can't imagine.
And we need your help. So I'm coming on just to ask you, not just for your prayers, but no matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson,
Even if
you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation, and we need your help.
Very sad story. Let's get back to the coverage right here.
Said if this were just a money grab, as if you believe maybe it's something
Welcome,
else
everybody. Hit that
besides
like button
a
for me.
kidnapping for ransom.
Greetings.
Is that in the back of your mind or maybe the front of your mind?
It is. It's there. There is a personal element to this. There is a reason why Nancy Guthrie was taken. There is no doubt in my mind that this has to do with her daughter, Savannah, and Savannah's notoriety and perceived wealth as a part of that.
I think it's somebody who has it in for Savannah. That's just my personal, take.
Notoriety. So this has a very personal touch, if you will, in my opinion. There's a reason why this is not being resolved so quickly on the part of the perpetrators. They are not, in my opinion, going out of their way to resolve this quickly. There's a reason why this is being dragged out. We know the families put out 2 videos, obviously very strategically stated in terms of what they're talking about in there. There's no doubt that they're working very closely with the FBI on the messages that need to be conveyed. So the perpetrators here have an advantage in that they are seeing the emotional strain up close and personal that this is causing on the family, specifically Savannah Guthrie.
Yeah, one of the advantages they have too is sort of the remoteness of this crime scene. Our Alicia Acuna kind of walks us through that. I want to play that for you now.
So you've got...
If my mother was missing, I would be bawling my eyes out. So I agree with a lot of you guys in the chat.
Nancy's house, it's in the middle, and the lots are large enough for privacy.
Drone
we walk
footage.
the front of the properties, and on one side, mailbox to mailbox, it's about 300 feet. On the other side,
The call
it's
is
a little
coming
closer.
from inside the house.
But with both homes that flank her house, there are lines of vegetation. There's space and cactus. And from what we could gather, it appears the neighbors to the back may have the best vantage point to her home. And hopefully someone back there has a door cam pointed in the right direction.
That would be a tall order, it would seem to me. In that part of the country, when you're that far from your neighbors, you're not worried about covering your backyard with a camera necessarily. Chuck, what do you think?
Yeah, this is an entirely friendly environment for somebody that would want to carry out this type of attack, this kidnapping. It's beneficial, it's advantageous to them based on the remoteness, the darkness.
Yeah, it's dark, it is remote, it's the desert. It is pitch black there at night.
And if pre-surveillance were conducted on this site, which I believe it was by the perpetrators, the limited capability technologically to be able to capture the perpetrators via the footage to share with law enforcement. We know that the majority of that is absent in this investigation.
And we've had a lot of former FBI agents check in. We're going to look at another one of those stories right here.
In moments. We'll hear from former FBI Special Agent Stuart Kaplan. We'll dig in deep with Stuart. First, though, senior correspondent Alicia Acuna reports live from Tucson. Alicia.
Hi, Harris. No confirmation yet on whether the family has paid that reported $6 million. And we don't know yet if that video that the Guthries released over the weekend prompted any movement by her captors. Right now, we want to give you a bird's eye view of the situation here on the ground from our Fox flight crew. You can see two sheriff's vehicles parked outside the home. This began on Sunday. The department issuing a statement saying their constant presence now is at the request of the Guthrie family. There's this septic tank that was searched this weekend as well. On Sunday afternoon, investigators used a long pole to probe inside. They were focused here for about an hour in the back of Nancy's property. On Saturday night, law enforcement returned to re-walk the terrain around the house using their flashlights in the pitch black dark of night. Then later that night, our Fox Digital team was at Annie Guthrie's house when sheriff deputies went inside. Flashes of light could be seen like coming from a camera. They were coming from the garage and also from another room. The FBI is analyzing a trove of data from not only Nancy Guthrie's home, but her neighbors. This is a photo of one of the cameras removed from the outside of Nancy's house. Even if a camera like this doesn't record someone on the property, the FBI can grab what's known as unseen data.
For example, you have a lot of neighbors saying, oh, my Ring camera never registered anything. Doesn't mean that technology has not logged the ability to see it, but didn't think it was big enough to ping that app we may use. So there still could be data there. Cameras facing the Guthrie house right now show very little activity, but I promise you there's an enormous amount of activity going on the digital side.
And Harris here on day 9, still no suspects
Day
officially
9.
or persons of interest. Back to you.
It's day 9.
Alicia, thank you. I want to bring in Stuart Kaplan now. He is a former FBI special agent, global security risk management expert, and a criminal defense attorney. Great to have you, Stuart. I want to start with the, as they've been described, kind of cryptic video appeals for the return of Nancy Guthrie. And maybe
hit the like button, everybody.
Cryptic about them is, first it was, emotional, so on and so forth, a lot less of that now. What is the type of communication that we are seeing publicly from that family? How would you describe it?
From my vantage point, those messages are messaging directly the source of whoever has been sending those ransom notes. Now, we don't have the benefit of being able to actually read those ransom notes.
Less than
and
3
by the
hours.
way, there may be some additional messaging that, quite frankly, law enforcement or the FBI is holding close to the vest. But it seemed, at least yesterday, that messaging in a very cryptic but very specific and methodical way was responsive to specific questions or concerns from the ransom note makers or authors of that ransom note. And that's why I think that there is a lot more information that is unknown to the general public that specifically is only known
The
to
deadline is at 5 o'clock Tucson, Arizona time, 5 p.m. We are just a couple of hours away from that.
law enforcement, and it's a cat and mouse game at this point.
Look, the money more than quadrupled. We went from 1 million in Bitcoin or thereabouts to 6 million now. The original reward was $2,500. The FBI bumped that up to 50 last week, 50,000. What do you make of the money?
Could the son-in-law have some kind of gambling debt or some kind of debt he incurred with the cartels? This is very suspicious. It's very weird. I think the FBI is holding a lot to their chest.
Play in this whole game.
Yeah,
Well,
we watch
again,
a lot of different news channels here, but thank you.
That money play may have been because, quite frankly, either the family resisted or pushed back, or at the direction of law enforcement was not responsive to the ransom note makers or communicators. And in retaliation for non-compliance, they now escalated or increased or heightened the threat level and said, look, we wanted $1 million, and now if you want to see your mother return to you or ever see her alive again, it's now $6 million. And I will say this, this 5 o'clock deadline cuts both ways, because if nothing happens at 5 o'clock, clearly the ransom note makers lose their credibility. And also, if the Guthrie family doesn't follow through and make that payment again, there may be some unfortunate consequences. This is going to be a game changer this afternoon at 5 o'clock.
So you're saying that they've got to pay that money before 5?
Yeah.
$6 million.
Well, look. Yeah, well, look, there's a lot of tension behind the curtains. I will say that the Guthrie family, and rightfully so, if it's your loved one, you're willing to pay whatever it takes, whatever you could muster up or afford, even if it's a long shot. On the flip side, law enforcement is wanting to see proof of life. They want to see some additional information so that arguably you don't send $6 million to someone who disappears and they have nothing to show for it. So here again is a cat and mouse game. I will just say this to you, and I've said it from the very beginning. The advancement of technology that is in the toolbox of the FBI is like no other, certainly in 2026. Those assets and resources generally are never known or seen by the general public in a criminal investigation.
Right.
I again think the breakthrough of this case will be because of the advancement in technology that the FBI has deployed in this case. Those data sets, those digital footprints do take some time. But again, I am optimistic that we are at the precipice of this case being broken wide open.
Look, I want to talk about some of the things that have actually gone on with the case. And this is not to impugn anybody in the investigation. I mean, obviously, law enforcement, military. I'm a huge supporter of the blue. But that sheriff has some problems now. Because now it's come out by his own admission in one of the previous news conferences that, yeah, hindsight 2020 maybe should not have released the crime scene, which, by the way, tomorrow will have been a week ago. And then they reopened it, and then they went back out this weekend, so on and so forth. All of that could be fantastic. They're gathering things. But in the meantime, everybody trampled that space who was within, 100 miles of it. I'm exaggerating a little bit. Whoever could get there. They were walking all over that crime scene at Nancy Guthrie's house for at least a day. Fox News Digital is reporting staffing shortages.
And there's a lot of word that the Pima County Sheriff contaminated the crime scene. They didn't lock it down. Unbelievable.
Launch of high-tech search aircraft for hours after Guthrie was first reported missing. How big of a problem is that?
Well, look, and I hate again, and I agree with you, I don't want to trample or bash any law enforcement officer, but let's just talk about the real world. Elderly people go missing all the time. Unfortunately, there are a lot of medical emergencies that happen where people lose their awareness and they wander off, and family members.
I mean, there was blood in the pathway. Could they have thrown her over their shoulder to get her out of there? I mean, there are so many different variables here.
They go and find that they're no longer home. What happens is it's a routine 911 call. Local law enforcement arrives on scene and basically goes through the motions of just taking a missing person's report. It's very common. It's very routine. There are no bells or whistles or alarms that go off. In this particular case, and to your point, the preservation of the integrity of a crime scene only can happen on its first step onto that property. And there lies that you can never treat anything in this world any longer as just a routine, mundane circumstance. You have to always consider the worst case scenario. In this particular case, and by the way, the FBI was not first on scene, and I will tell you, I know they would love to have been first on scene to have preserved the integrity of that crime scene, because there really, quite frankly, is no way to go back and put it into the exact state it was when they first arrived on scene. But again, we have to move forward and we have to work with what we have.
No, the blood was identified as Nancy's.
With what we have. Real quickly, look, it's optics now. You've got a family, high profile, Savannah Guthrie. You've got the country watching, the world watching this case, which is one of the highest profile we've seen, as I mentioned, in decades. And I understand that the U of A basketball team, NCAA Division I, have stars. And I understand that the sheriff is a fan. But the pictures that show him at that game over the weekend, what did they say to you about where the priority is?
The optics are horrible. It's poor management.
It looks really bad. It looks really bad for him to have gone to that game.
Look, again, but look, we all need at some point some decompression time to distract us because we're in a pressure cooker. But quite frankly, from where I sit, I think it was just a bad choice. The optics are terrible. I will say this. I think it will be impossible for him to ever rehabilitate himself to come up with a plausible explanation as to why he excused himself, knowing that he would be in a public venue and be scrutinized to the level he is right now.
And we do have those pictures. I want my team to put them up when they can. Consent search. The consent searches now. Tell us about that and what that...
Yeah, Annie Guthrie, the sister, consented and allowed the search to happen on her house. It was not forced. She allowed it.
Means for this, going back to the home of not just Nancy Guthrie, but also Annie Guthrie, her daughter.
Well, I talked about that last night on another program on Fox News, and I said, look, the Guthrie family is in a situation where they must cooperate. And why must they cooperate? Because it's the Guthrie family, and because there's an expectation that if there's any resistance to cooperating, that there's going to be obvious consequences in their reputation, and there'll be negative inferences drawn.
And that's what they have to look out for. I mean, keeping the optics in a certain place for these kind of stories is very key for law enforcement. I broke the story earlier about the Instagram. We're going to look at some of the coverage about it from just a few minutes ago.
Breaking news, we have just received a brand new video from Savannah Guthrie.
And for those that haven't seen it, there is a brand new video from Savannah Guthrie.
As we are a little over an hour away from one of the deadlines in the letter for this ransom payment. We're getting it ready. We are about to play it for you in just a moment, but I can tell you that in it she says, we need your help. And we're going to play this for you as soon as we get it turned around. Just stick with us here. Chief Correspondent Jonathan Hunt on the...
well, they didn't have it. I do. I'm going to play it again.
Hi there, everybody. I wanted to come on and just share a few thoughts as we enter into another week of this nightmare. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for all of the prayers and the love that we have felt, my sister and brother and I, and that our mom has felt. Because we believe that somehow, some way, she is feeling these prayers and that God is lifting her even in this moment and in this darkest place. We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where. And we need your help. So I'm coming on just to ask you, not just for your prayers, but no matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, if you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation.
Guys.
And we need your help.
So her pleas for help, and we're going to get some more coverage here.
Ground in Tucson as we wait to show that to you in just a moment. Jonathan?
Jonathan.
And interestingly, Martha, this new message is not addressed to the kidnapper or kidnappers. It is addressed to the general public. In it, Savannah Guthrie thanks everybody for their prayers. She says, we are in
an hour of desperation. She said that we, the Guthrie siblings, believe our mother is still out there. She hears your prayers, Savannah says, and she says, we all need your help. She is out there somewhere, but it certainly sounds from the tone of that message, which our viewers will hear shortly, Martha, that the investigation is at something of a dead end at this point, because Savannah Guthrie's tone in this is absolutely desperate, saying that law enforcement are working as hard as they can, but they need the public's help. And she appeals to anybody, anywhere, well outside of Tucson, well outside of Arizona, if you see something that you think might be helpful in any way, shape, or form, please contact law enforcement. So this, I think it is fair to characterize as a message of utter desperation. Once again, a gut-wrenching thing to listen to, as all of Savannah Guthrie's videos have been, Martha.
Jonathan, you know, so quick question here, and you make a number of good points. She's just addressing people generally, and we're going to play it in just a second. But there's no mention in this video, like the last one, Jonathan, we will pay, we understand. So what might this signal? I mean, I know you don't know the answer to this. We're just, you know, sort of thinking it through about this pending ransom time, and whether or not perhaps they do not put credence in that anymore, potentially.
Yeah, it's a perfectly fair question, Martha. This is a very different message. The ones we have seen so far, 3 videos from the family, they have all been a direct message to the kidnapper. This now is moving beyond that. This is a message to the public saying, we need your help. It almost feels, and we're all speculating here, Martha, of course, we're all trying to read a tone, but it almost feels like they feel as though this has taken a step backwards rather than forward.
Jonathan,
so you're absolutely accurate in picking up on that tone.
Thank you so much, Jonathan Hunt. Let's play this video. Stick around for a second. Let's watch this.
Hi there, everybody. I wanted to come on and just share a few thoughts as we enter into another week of this nightmare. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for all of the prayers and the love that we have felt, my sister and brother and I, and that our mom has felt. Because we believe that somehow, some way, she is feeling these prayers, and that God is lifting her even in this moment and in this darkest place. We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where. And we need your help. So I'm coming on just to ask you, not just for your prayers, but no matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, if you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation.
So a desperate hour for them. The clock is running out. We are coming up on just 2 hours away. Another former FBI agent checking in and giving their take.
As I said last night, the only way law enforcement can get access to digital information at a relative's house is through the execution of search warrant or through the use of subpoena power. And so in order to short circuit those type of hurdles that law enforcement must go through, we need the consent of the family. And so the family seemingly is cooperating. But again, you have to wonder why law enforcement is now digging so deep into some of these family members. There has to be some evidence or something that is causing law enforcement to go back and re-engage themselves in the family.
They have gone back several times to do several different searches. So we're going to look at something about the $6 million Ransom here. All right. This is, see, we look at all stations here. We look at all of them.
From an apparent ransom note quickly approaching. It's set for today at 5 p.m. We are learning new details about what is in that note. Guthrie's purported abductor is demanding $6 million in Bitcoin and threatening to kill her if the demand is not met. That's according to a CNN affiliate. Investigators returned to the scene Sunday, searching Guthrie's property, including a septic tank near her home. Police still have not identified a suspect. So we're bringing in now Ken Gray. He's a former FBI special agent. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Aldi. Good to be with you.
First, I want to talk about the latest video. People are looking at the turns of phrase, among this a plea so that they can celebrate with their mother. Can you talk about how these videos are supposed to help in these situations?
Sure. So the two videos were quite different. The first one seemed to be trying to convince the kidnapper that their mother was a person, that they encouraged them to talk to her, trying to ensure that her safety was taken care of by the kidnapper. The second video, on the other hand, was quite different in that it was much shorter, much more to the point. We'll pay, our mother's return is important to us, and we want to celebrate with her. Very, very different in its tone and nature. The interesting thing here about this is also that the communication from the kidnapper was not an email. Instead, we learned that this communication came by way of a complaint form or a tips line form going into the television station over its website. And so that's interesting in that that's why we're not seeing investigative steps that will be able to locate the kidnapper through tracking emails.
I'm glad you're bringing that up because we had one of our voices on air, Josh Campbell, who had some criticism about how this is being handled. Here he is.
I've worked kidnapping cases where if there is an actual line of communication that is set up, that is treated sensitively, that is protected, that is not something that either the family nor the FBI crisis negotiators, for that matter, would actually be publicizing. And so the fact that we see this appeal, again, via social media tells us that they're essentially responding to the alleged abductor here via the medium that they have chosen.
Can you talk about why you think that matters, or if it does?
So there is not two-way communication going on here. The kidnapper is broadcasting his demands. The family is going through social media responding to this, but you don't see an exchange of actual details between the two as you would if they were in direct communication. That causes communication problems, a lack of details. We don't get a sign of life. There was no answer to the request for a sign of life. The family has decided to go ahead, despite the fact that there is no sign of life here, the knowledge that Nancy is still alive, the family has decided to go ahead and pay the kidnapper for her return. That's somewhat unusual, but it's up to the family to make the decision whether or not they're going to pay a ransom and whether or not they're going to pay it despite the fact that they don't have proof that their mother is still being held alive.
So the latest reporting from the purported ransom note is that the abductors are asking for $6 million in Bitcoin for Nancy Guthrie's return. Now, I know Bitcoin, the whole point of it is that it's not traceable, but I was reading you said that it is possible to recover Bitcoin in these situations. Help me understand.
So Bitcoin is something that is sometimes traceable in that it would be traceable if the person reused a Bitcoin address that had been used in a previous case. I don't think that's the case in this particular situation. And then you would have to actually be able to put your hands on the bad guy in this case, the kidnapper, to be able to recover these funds. So I don't think that this money, if it's paid, will be recoverable unless they actually identify the kidnapper and
Well,
are
I mean, you certainly wouldn't be able to spend any of it because the spending would be trackable.
able to go and actually physically arrest them. Normally in a kidnapping case, when you do the money delivery, the ransom delivery, that's an opportunity for law enforcement to move in on it. With Bitcoin, that opportunity is lost. And so I think that they'll have to identify the kidnapper by other means. We are not aware of all the details of the leads that are being worked by law enforcement in this case. It's somewhat frustrating to the public not seeing how this plays out, but that's not unusual in any law enforcement investigation. And so there are some leads that we are seeing pursued. We see them still going back out to the property now the third time.
And
that
people
they
can
have gone
complain
in there
about Fox News
declaring
all they
it
want.
a
They get
crime
better
scene.
guests than this
I'm
guy.
surprised that it was not declared a crime scene and held as a crime
Wake
scene
me up when he's done
from
talking.
the very beginning. And we're also seeing other things such as the pursuit of that suspicious vehicle that was in the neighborhood. We've yet to see the result of that. And also the actions over there at Annie's house. We don't know why that returned to her house and what was removed from her house. There are a number of investigative leads that we are seeing play out, but there are far more than what we are seeing play out, and we're just not aware of those details.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I
on
mean,
the
I
day with
believe
this
that the FBI would keep a lot of their information very close to the chest.
deadline, we have many more questions than answers. Ken Gray, thank you for your time. We're just hours away from a reported deadline from Nancy Guthrie's captors. And
All right, we're going to go and take a look here about the actual terrain and some of the challenges that the surrounding terrain presents to law enforcement. Let's go.
Investigators racing against the clock to find Nancy Guthrie as the second and final deadline for an alleged ransom expires at 5 o'clock local time today. Investigators searching around her house again over the weekend, including examining that septic tank in the backyard. And we're also seen using a topographic map. Our next guest knows the area very well. Mark Lamb is the former sheriff of the neighboring area, Pinal County, and he joins us now. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Ainsley. How you doing?
Good morning. Doing great. Let's kind of unpack what happened over the weekend. Septic tank. Why are they searching that?
Well, you can't leave any stone unturned. You know, on the septic tank, you see how big the opening is. You don't want to find out a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now when you actually catch the suspect that her body was in there. And so you've got to check that. Maybe a cell phone was flushed down the toilet. Maybe some other device that might give them some information is in there. They've got to check it. And that, obviously, you can see you can put a lot in there.
Okay, what about the terrain? We were told that terrain's harder to search. I would think it'd be easier because there's no grass. Tell me about that since you live in that area.
That terrain is very difficult. There's some topographical changes. And I'll tell you what, I've walked in those deserts looking for people coming in this country illegally. You can be within feet of people and not see them. There's
it's true.
That low brush, that desert brush. And then you've got not far from there, that starts to change. It starts to get much more rough and it starts to get much more sparse. A lot of houses in that area as well. These are custom homes. So it's all types of different terrain. Mixed in with custom houses, walls. There's a lot that they've got to search in that area. And it's a significant neighborhood of custom homes and desert landscape that you would have to search.
Okay, Mark, they're searching also over the weekend around 5 p.m. on, Thursday. They were seen at the mall, the La Encantada Mall. You probably know where that is, in the parking lot. What's the latest there?
Well, Ainsley, when you look at that area, there's a lot of those custom houses, but then there's only a handful of intersections, major intersections that they would have had to have left that through if they were leaving in a car.
Hit the like button for me, guys. Thank you very much.
Or staging in an area prior to taking Nancy Guthrie, if indeed she was kidnapped. So you're going to look at that area, which would be a good staging area, or an area where they may have exited through, which is you're going to pull up all the cameras. Most of these businesses are going to have cameras cameras like the Circle K and other businesses. So I imagine that they're going through and making sure that they have every bit of footage that they can get of a potential suspect or suspect car that may have gone through that area prior or after the crime was committed.
All right, so Mark, what do you think happened here? I know they went back and they searched the sister, Savannah Guthrie's sister's house. The last people to see her on Saturday night was the son-in-law, Nancy's son-in-law, who dropped her off at the house. Is it usually a family member? I know they're saying no suspects. I'm not saying that here, but what do you think happened?
Look, I think the statistic, Ainsley, is over 90% of cases like this are committed by somebody who is familiar with the family member or the person that was abducted, or a family member themselves.
I mean, how else would they know about the layout of the house, the cameras, things like that? This is somebody who had, intimate knowledge of not only the family's movements, but about the home itself. That's my opinion. What do you guys think?
We don't like to have to be the person that has to deliver this type of message, but you have to look at them. Always, when you look at a crime, you look at means, opportunity, and then you find motive. If you can find motive on all three of those, and then the means and the opportunity, you're going to be able to narrow down your suspect list. But you're going to have to look at the close family members because they had the means and the opportunity, and now you're looking for that digital footprint that can exonerate them. Really, what you're trying to do is say, hey, we want to make sure that you're not part of this. But at the same time, that's probably where you're going to have to start your investigation most thoroughly.
I mean, it's,
right?
You could check off the boxes on means and opportunity, but the motive, what's the motive here? That's just crazy to me.
There with the family or anybody that was very familiar with the home or them.
Mark, everyone around the country is talking about this. It's a high-profile case. Do you think we'll have answers this week?
I sure hope. I mean, for the family's sake, I hope. But also, Ainsley, look, there are people that go missing in this country every day. There are children that go missing to the tune of tens of thousands of children every day.
Exactly.
I would hope that the media and the law enforcement will give the same effort that they've given to this case to those families who oftentimes they don't get this type of assistance from the media or this type of attention. And we should be probably giving children who go missing just as much attention, if not more.
That's right.
So I hope this is a learning experience, or we use this to really focus on, hey, when somebody goes missing, we should expend these resources for anybody that goes missing.
That's true. It shouldn't just be celebrities. It should be the vulnerable, the innocent, and especially the kids that go missing around the country on a daily basis. Let's take a look over here at this New York Times article. And what it says here is 7 days, no suspects. The disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie, has not been heard from since an evening of dinner and games with family members. And the article goes on to say it was the type of Saturday evening that Nancy Guthrie treasured. Dinner and game night at the home of her eldest daughter and son-in-law. They live near each other in the unincorporated desert communities that are north of Tucson, Arizona, and Miss Guthrie arrived by Uber just after 5:30 p.m. on January 31st. We are now at February 9. Wow. The family spent about 4 hours together before Miss Guthrie was driven home by her son-in-law, the last person to see her alive, or the last person to see her before her disappearance, who watched to ensure she made it safely inside. The police said later at 9:48 p.m., her garage door opened, according to a timeline from the authorities. 2 minutes later, it closed. That glimpse of Miss Guthrie heading inside was the last time anyone in her family saw or heard from her. What unfolded in the following hours is still mostly a mystery, but one flecked with several ominous details. It has been more than a week since Miss Guthrie, the 84-year-old mother of Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie, disappeared. The case has captivated the nation, but so far has confounded authorities. Here's some more details about that. Let's have a look.
Gut-wrenching day here at NBC News as investigators search for Savannah Guthrie's mother, Nancy. Today, authorities providing the most information yet, including new details about that purported ransom note received by multiple news outlets. Law enforcement still not certain it's authentic, but officials say it included a deadline for today at 5 p.m. local time there in Tucson. They also released key details to scrutiny.
That is now less than 2 hours away. We are less than 2 hours away from the ransom clock death line.
In the note, including references to Nancy Guthrie's Apple Watch and a floodlight outside of her home that made them take the note seriously. But we should mention those details may have been publicly available. The sheriff's office in Arizona also revealing that something, possibly a person, was detected on Nancy's home security camera the night she went missing. We'll also have more on that heartbreaking video, Savannah and her siblings reaching out to their missing mother, Nancy, and to her possible captor. We have two reports tonight, but we want to start with Liz Kreutz on the ground in Tucson.
Tonight, authorities revealing several new and potentially critical details about the abduction of Nancy Guthrie.
Right now, we believe Nancy is still out there.
The update from the sheriff and FBI coming just hours after that emotional video Savannah posted with her siblings pleading for her mother's safe return.
Everyone is looking for you, Mommy, everywhere. We will not rest. Your children will not rest until we are together again.
For the first time, the sheriff's department outlining a rough timeline for Nancy's disappearance. They say after dinner at her daughter's house Saturday night, Nancy was brought home by a family member at 9:48 p.m. At 9:50, her garage door closed. Then at 1:47 a.m., the doorbell camera disconnected. At 2:12, software detected movement on a camera. And at 2:28, Nancy's pacemaker app disconnected. The sheriff tells me they haven't been able to access any home surveillance video, and they currently have no suspect or person of interest.
Is this a professional abduction? It seems like they did not make any mistakes.
I can't say that. I don't know. As we move, we'll learn if they made mistakes. I don't know of a perfect crime.
The FBI also addressing the reported ransom note sent to 3 different news outlets, saying it referenced an Apple Watch Nancy owned and floodlights at her house, information that's publicly available. He also said the note has a deadline.
The ransom note that was distributed to the media did make a demand for 5 p.m. today. And if a transfer wasn't made, then I think a second demand was for next Monday.
The special agent in charge says they're still investigating the legitimacy of the ransom note and that there's been no contact so far with any potential abductor.
In a normal kidnapping case, there would be contact by now.
Authorities arresting a man last night for sending a hoax ransom demand to Savannah's sister and brother-in-law.
To those imposters who are trying to take advantage and profit from this situation, we will investigate and ensure you are held accountable for your actions.
The FBI now offering a $50,000 reward for any information that leads to Nancy or an arrest. For now, the investigation continues after 5 days of searching, waiting, and praying.
What gives you hope that Nancy is still out there?
Wow. You have to have hope. You have to have hope. You can't. Come on, this is somebody's mom. We're going to find her. And hopefully she's alive when we do.
And we all have hope right now. Liz joins us live. Back to the reported ransom note you've been reporting on here. What are authorities doing ahead of these alleged deadlines you mentioned?
Well, Tom, first the FBI needs to verify if the demand is legitimate. To do so, they are trying to open up a line of communication with whoever sent it. If they are able to do that, the FBI says that they are prepared. They have crisis negotiators here in Tucson ready to assist the family. Tom?
Okay, Liz, we thank you. You saw part of that emotional plea from Savannah and her siblings. Dana Griffin now with a closer look at the message the family is sending.
We want to thank all of you.
This is the previous message with the siblings. I was playing earlier another video that just came out today. We're going to watch that again in just a couple seconds.
You for the prayers for our beloved mom, Nancy. We feel them. And we continue to believe that she feels them too.
It's a gut-wrenching, emotional plea from Savannah, her sister Annie, and brother Cameron.
Our mom is our heart and our home. She is 84 years old. Her health, her heart is fragile.
Speaking at times directly to their mother.
Mama, if you're listening, we need you to come home.
We love you, Mom. Stay strong.
The siblings then making this request to any potential kidnapper.
We are ready to talk.
The mom is not the rich one. Why would you look at the mother's will? Why would that make sense? I don't understand. Where's that coming from, Chad?
However, we live in a world where voices and images are easily manipulated. We need to know, without a doubt, that she is alive and that you have her. We want to hear from you.
NBC News law enforcement analyst Jim Kavanaugh says the family is trying to humanize Nancy and open the door for communication.
The goal is to start a communication to get Nancy released. There's been a couple of one-way ransom demands that they can't tell if they're valid or not.
Anyone who has Nancy, he says, is at a crossroads right now.
The abductors have two options: communicate and try to achieve the goals of their crime.
My question is, does Savannah have any stalkers? I mean, a lot of public figures have stalkers. So, I mean, that would be something to look into as well.
Release Nancy. Take her to a church, take her to a business, drop her off.
So Nancy can be right back where she belongs. Dana.
So we're going to take a look at how, we've been talking about how this makes no sense. Here's some people checking in on how it makes literally no sense at all. Here we go.
You guys, and here we go on a Monday morning. This is a critical moment. The search for Nancy Guthrie, missing for more than a week. The message the family is now sending to their mother's captor, with her purported second ransom deadline said to be only hours away. So here we go. Good morning, everybody, wherever you are. Hope you're waking up with us today. I'm Bill Hemmer, waking up today in Northern California, the morning after Super Bowl 60. We'll get to all that stuff and take you behind the scenes throughout the next 2 hours. But good morning from California, Dana. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm Dana Perino, and this is America's Newsroom. Yes. Did you even go to sleep last night?
Maybe 2.5 hours.
Okay.
But listen, it's worth it. Dana, I tell you every time, it is the place in America once a year where everyone is happy with a smile on their face as they go into the venue. Depending on the outcome, a lot of those moods change, but it's just a great American moment. We're going to show you that coming up momentarily.
It absolutely is. Okay, well, we look forward to all of that. More to come on that, but let's get you to the news. Here is what we know on day 9. Police have not identified a suspect in the Nancy Guthrie.
She's been missing for 9 days.
Disappearance. Yesterday, investigators returned to her home where they were seen searching a septic tank and a manhole cover.
Yeah, you wonder what those clues might be. We'll check that out momentarily with our expert. The FBI is saying the second deadline laid out in a purported ransom note is said to be later today, 5 o'clock local time in Arizona. That is 7 o'clock in New York. Now, the Guthries pledged to pay that ransom in a video message to whomever may be holding their mother, Dana.
And Nancy Guthrie and her, Savannah Guthrie and her siblings released that video on Saturday. They addressed their mother's captor directly and pled with them to bring her home.
We received your message and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace.
Yeah, but that piece from Silence of the Lambs, I mean, that's something that I believe would be in any kidnapping, for them to try and humanize the individual that's been taken, right?
This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
Alicia Acuna outside Nancy Guthrie's home in Tucson, Arizona. Where do things stand on this Monday morning?
Good morning, Dana. This was a very busy weekend for investigators in the search for Nancy Guthrie. Let's begin with that septic tank that you mentioned. Sunday, late in the afternoon, a sheriff's deputy and another member of law enforcement went to the back of Nancy's property, and they removed what looked like a man cover, and they were focused on that and on this septic tank, using a pole to probe this area. They were there for about an hour and then left. On Saturday night, our Fox flight team captured images of investigators searching in the terrain once again in the dark with flashlights. Hours later, investigators show up at Savannah's sister and brother-in-law's house. They spent about 2.5 hours on site. We understand the family was not there.
Hit the like button for me, guys. Subscribe to the channel, share it out.
Agents in there, and a lot of what looked like camera flashes going off in the garage and another room. The FBI is also digging into mountains of data from not only Nancy Guthrie's home, but her neighbors. And as it was explained to us, even even if a door cam didn't capture an image, the FBI can grab what's known as unseen data. And Dana, what that is that's when you have like door cam apps and they're smart enough to know if a person is there, but it has to constantly be checking to see if that's something what the user wants. So it still captures that data, and the FBI has that, and there is a lot of it, and they're going to be working on that. No news conferences so far scheduled. The Sheriff's Department says that they will have one if there's a major update. Back to you.
Okay, Alicia, thank you so much. Over to you, Bill.
And Dana, we're going to bring in James Gagliano, former FBI supervisory agent. James, good to have you back on today. Let me read you what was sent out from the Sheriff's Department on Super Bowl Sunday. They said the following. They say Nancy Guthrie's investigation is ongoing. Said follow-up continues at multiple locations. No suspects, persons of interest, or vehicles have been identified. No scheduled press conferences. If any significant...
We are now an hour and 45 minutes away from the deadline, the deathline that the alleged kidnappers have given.
Elements occur in the case, a press conference will be called, as Alicia just said there. What do you make of the septic tank, the visit to the Circle K Convenient Mart? What is important for you right now, James, as you go back over the 48 hours this weekend?
Yeah, Bill, I think it's all part and parcel of the conduct of an investigation that has defied gravity for so long. It just doesn't make sense from so many parts of what traditional kidnappings typically entail. Again, going back to the Lindbergh baby kidnapping or Frank Sinatra Jr. or even Patty Hearst. Is this for profit? Is it for...
Well, it is being called the death line because that's what they threatened. They threatened to take her life if the ransom was not met.
Revenge? Is there an ideological bent to this, and that has not been stated or released yet?
I didn't call it that.
Bill, I think this is just a law enforcement team,
did.
the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Office, that is turning over every stone,
if the shoe
following
fits.
Exhaustively every lead, literally going down rabbit holes, and sometimes that's what you have to do. I won't criticize them for going back to the house. I criticized them last week for releasing the crime scene so early, but as was pointed out at the top of this hit, you know, there's a lot of work ongoing behind the scenes on digital imagery. That stuff takes time. Was it a proxy server? Was it an IP address that was masked by VPN? Things like that take time to kind of grind through, and Bill, I think that's what they're focused on right now.
Okay, all right, James, we can take that deeper a bit later in our program, but I can tell you what we were all talking about on Saturday out here in California. It was the language of the video message late on Friday night.
Yeah, but any of that direct communication could possibly be traced, you know? These people probably don't want their position revealed.
We will pay, and we want to celebrate her. Can you give us an understanding or an interpretation as to what goes into that?
Sure, if you listen to the three messages that have been released by the family, Bill, and they're heart-wrenching. You see a family, you know, at the end of their rope, literally beseeching the captors or the abductors to please release them.
Well, the Bitcoin account is real, but they have found no deposits made into this Bitcoin account days after they just said they would pay the ransom. So that's another point of contention here.
Bill, I'm still not certain that these notes, this messaging and communications from these so-called abductors can be authenticated yet. And there's a lot to this at the FBI, the Behavioral Analysis Unit, as well as the Crisis Negotiation Unit, are trying to assist the family with. Remember, we in law enforcement cannot compel a family to act in a certain way or tell them that they have to do this. It's all up to them. And Bill, here's the chilling piece of this. We're hurtling towards a deadline right now, 5 o'clock, right? Which is the second deadline that's been laid out by the supposed kidnappers. I don't even think paying the ransom money would be dispositive in this case. Could these be fraudsters? Could they be opportunists? And I think that's what the family and law enforcement is having to be forced to deal with right now.
All right, two quick last questions here. What's more significant, the first deadline or the second? Or do we get a third possibly?
They do anything.
Yeah. They make no sense, and here's why, Bill. Typically in a kidnapping, if it follows typical protocols, there are multiple deadlines set when the kidnapper wants to show how serious they are. If you do not comply with the first deadline, you will receive negative consequences. And those, you can think about all the awful things that could happen. In this instance, where there doesn't appear to be
it really reminds me of the movie Seven. Remember the movie Seven with Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman?
Negative consequences. We're still not 100% certain that Miss Guthrie is alive because there's been no proof of life. And yeah, Bill, I wouldn't be surprised if there was an additional deadline.
Or a law-abiding citizen?
Somebody's either playing this out because A, they're trying to mask the fact that they do not have her, or they're just trying to lead the family on and try to get any money out of them that they can.
Wow, so cruel. The other point that was brought up is that the first message apparently had a request for Bitcoin, and the second message said a US dollar amount, which has led a lot of people like yourself to think about maybe this coming from outside the country. Right now, we at least do not know that. James, thank you for coming back.
We're not going to know that until we know that. So here we are going to look at a story regarding the repeated searches of the house, because as you know, the FBI has been back several times. What is being said is that the initial investigation contaminated the crime scene because they didn't lock it down. That's probably why they're going back more than once.
All of this down is former FBI investigator Bill Daly. Bill, it is so terrific to have your expertise join us on this very important evening. You know, obviously there are a whole host of people working underneath Sheriff Nanos on this investigation, but the optics of this, attending a basketball game last night.
I don't think it was random. I believe this was planned. They had to know who she was. I think it could be a stalker connected to Savannah, or perhaps, the son-in-law, some drug debts, some gambling debts.
It's raising a lot of questions. What do you make of it?
Well, I think you hit it right on the head. It is optics, and I believe this sheriff is an elected official, and it really is up to the constituents of the county to understand whether or not he's doing his job correctly, or whether he can take a break and go to a basketball game. I mean, if we kind of, and I'm sure Joey can appreciate this. I mean, if the general's having dinner in the office,
it's certainly not the mother that was rich.
This club, but yet you have the captains, the lieutenants, the platoon commanders, and the people on the ground working on the job. Well, it doesn't really matter.
There he is. There's the sheriff working 24/7 at a basketball game.
They're the ones doing the work, and that's what's happening here. Is that I think one hand you have to say everybody needs a little kind of relief time, but on the other hand, I don't believe this has really impacted the case at all. As we saw, there's a tremendous amount of activity in and around both the Nancy Guthrie's home and her daughter's home. There's all other types of leads that are being followed up both by the FBI as well as the county and other law enforcement agencies. So, as far as the impact of the case, nil, if zero. But for the constituents in the county, they'll need to make their own decision as to, how they see those optics.
Bill, I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree with you. Right now, today, him going to the basketball game, probably not a big deal, but it is indicative when you put the whole story together. I mean, he gave up the crime scene, I think, twice now. We've had multiple folks. Ted Williams, I think, has been the loudest critic of that here on the channel, of giving up the crime scene, allowing it to be contaminated really before the FBI
Very
even
bad
got
optics.
there, from the way I understand it.
Does not
so now
look
the
good.
FBI is there. I would imagine they're probably the ones calling the shots, kind of like you're saying, or a lot of other folks, like you said, under him doing the work. Yeah. But when we look at just some of his, and I'm not beating up on him, I feel like this is worth talking about. Some of his decisions early on, by firing the pilot that had the technical skills to do the aircraft surveillance there in the first 3 hours. And basically preventing that from happening, delaying that. And we all know time is critical. I think anybody that watches NCIS knows that. It does kind of build the case that the decisions, at least early on, from the sheriff weren't the great ones.
Yeah, Joey, I was just going to say is that, perhaps as we kind of go through, individual items, you could say things could have been done better. I do have to say is that most cases where local law enforcement on smaller departments, they don't come across, cases such as this,
Sure.
very often. In fact, it may be a once in a career type of case. And to your point is that, the FBI, once the FBI was alerted between President Trump's initiative in getting all the federal agencies who can support this case involved, and Kash Patel surging resources such as the SIRG team, the serial analyst team, all the people who could be helpful in this investigation and evidence response in place. It is kind of, even though it is a local case still at this point, the FBI is certainly kind of, let's say, leading the charge, at least on the ground, for this matter. So, I think, when you also kind of boil this down, and a lot of times people say, well, why did they release the crime scene? Or in other cases, why did they do this or that? And the thing comes down to is that, small departments, don't have this experience. Sometimes they show up, let's say in this case, and I'm going to give some benefit of the doubt, they roll up on a case, they get a call, there's a missing 84-year-old woman. They don't know how she wandered off. Did she go out for a walk and fall down? Now we can see with much more clarity that the situation was much more grave than that. But at the moment they're showing up and they're taking some initial steps, it may not appear that way to them. So I'm glad the Bureau is involved. As I said, you have the SIRG team, which handles both the domestic and international kidnapping cases, abductions. They're the people you want to have at your side. And they're the ones really, I have great confidence in kind of, helping lead both the police as well as the family through this ordeal.
Right. I want to ask as well about just the crime scene itself, since we were already talking about it. We see investigators, they keep returning to Nancy Guthrie's home. Why wasn't all the evidence possibly gathered when they first arrived? Is there a reason that they might go back? Now today we're seeing them in a drainage area. There's a lot of speculation about what that's about. Is this pretty typical for handling a crime scene, or do you see some abnormalities there in terms of how many times they return and the different areas that they seem to be looking now on day 8?
Many times you'll see that crime scenes are preserved for
I love it when people try and change the topic. Shh, the grown-ups are talking.
Long period of time before they turn back to the family or to the owner of the property, what have you. So, I mean, that would be one thing I'd say, is that it was turned over a bit too quickly. It's not that unusual for people to revisit the scene. If we go back to those horrible murders in Idaho, Moscow, Idaho, is that you did see crime scene technicians, you saw police, you saw FBI, you saw other forensic experts going in and out of that home over a period of time. So as more and more they learn, perhaps they learn maybe the samples that were first taken weren't the best samples taken, and so they need to go back and redo them. Or there's some other evidence that perhaps comes up through a lead or a tip that needed get more clarification on, need to go back in. So it's not that unusual they go back in and out of a crime scene. The only thing is that typically those crime scenes are held in abeyance and closed off until they really are finished with the discovery process.
And that's something that didn't happen with the Pima County Sheriff's Department. We're going to go back over to the video that was just released earlier. We're going to watch this again. This is Savannah Guthrie less than an hour ago on her, well, about an hour ago, on her Instagram channel.
Hi there, everybody. I wanted to come on and just share a few thoughts as we enter into another week of this nightmare. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for all of the prayers and the love that we have felt, my sister and brother and I, and that our mom has felt. Because
I had the ears before anyone knew who Bad Bunny was, okay? So, shh, again, the adults are talking.
we believe that somehow, some way, she is feeling these prayers and that God is lifting her even in this moment and in this
Just to
darkest
address
place.
that issue about the ears.
We believe our mom is still out there.
The better to hear you with, my dear.
We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where. And we need your help. So I'm coming on just to ask you, not just for your prayers, but no matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, If you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation, and we need your help.
We'll go somewhere else, Daly. Kick rocks.
Hi there, everybody.
We're going to listen to this again.
I wanted to come on and just share a few thoughts as we enter into another week of this nightmare.
Oh, James.
I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for all of the prayers and the love that...
I have a black belt in trolls, by the way, so you could keep going. I mean, it's hilarious. We love it.
We have felt, my sister and brother and I, and that our mom has felt. Because we believe that somehow, some way, she is feeling these prayers, and that God is lifting her even in this moment and in this darkest place. We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock, trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where.
Go.
And we need your help. So I'm coming on just to ask you, not just for your prayers, but no matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, if you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that...
Do you need a little tissue down there? You need a little tissue? You got a little sniffles? Shh.
Seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation.
I don't care.
And we need your help.
So that is Savannah Guthrie, once again from her Instagram account this morning. I want to listen to what Harvey has to say. Hey, Harvey.
It seems Nancy Guthrie is still alive. That is at least what Savannah Guthrie seems to be telegraphing.
Thank you, Jen Dependent, for the $5 super chat. Was the ransom demanded after this kind of public or before being public?
In her latest Instagram post, she says she, meaning Nancy, is feeling these prayers. So she believes Nancy is still out there.
Thank you very much for the super chat.
The other thing that seems clear is they have reached a dead end with whoever took her mother. She says that we believe our mom is out there. We need your help. This is Monday, and the deadline is today at 5 o'clock Tucson time. And the kidnappers made it very clear in the first ransom note, which we received, the situation is dire if they are true to their words, if they don't get that ransom money at 5 o'clock today, Tucson time. We have checked the Bitcoin address, and you can see what's deposited. As of this moment, the $6 million ransom has not been deposited. Something has happened where they are at a stalemate, because if you remember over the weekend, Savannah said, we are ready to pay. And the money isn't there. There is some reason, obviously, as to why they haven't. And it just seems like Savannah is throwing her hands up, saying law enforcement is doing everything they possibly can, but she is begging for the help of anybody, no matter how far away, for anything that could be a clue. The kidnappers, as far as we know, have not shown proof of life. Now, we have only seen the first ransom note, not the second. The second was sent to a local Phoenix television station. But it seems that the kidnappers have not done anything concrete, although there is something really interesting in the message Savannah left over the weekend when she said, we understand, referring to that first note. So there is something that the kidnappers said or demanded that Savannah is acknowledging. And then to me, the key word in that Instagram post over the weekend is the word celebrate. What did Savannah mean to say, we want to celebrate with our mother? It's an odd phrase to use in the middle of all of this. And the only thing I can think of is that word may well have been used in that second ransom note. I don't know because we haven't received the second, but the word is so out of context that I think it's reasonable to at least guess that that word was used in that second note. Now, she says, our mom has been taken and we don't know where. So she is kind of acknowledging that. And as we told you last Friday, that the way the ransom note, and we'll be a little bit descriptive now, the way the ransom note is worded, that...
I mean, you know, celebrate her return. You know how when a funeral is called a celebration of life? I mean, you know, maybe they're already reticent to the fact that that Nancy is very possibly already gone. Harvey disagrees.
They say we will bring your mother back to Tucson, meaning they're not in Tucson right now, if you believe them and take them at their word. We will bring her back to Tucson within 12 hours of the time that we receive the money. Well, if you take 12 hours and then you multiply it by 60 miles an hour, it gives you about a 700-mile radius around Tucson. And so it's basically the western United States, if you take them at their word, that they would be within the confines of that 700-mile radius. Personally, I think that there is a good chance that they are way closer. And the reason I say that is there is a connection between this kidnapper and the Tucson television market, which is a much smaller radius than 700 miles. This person who wrote it has some connection to Tucson because the first ransom note was sent to 2 local television stations there. In addition to us, the second ransom note sent to KOLD, which is one of those 2 television stations in Tucson. So whoever wrote this has some connection. Remember, if this were just somebody who saw Savannah Guthrie on TV and said, here's what we're going to do, they probably would have sent it to NBC News, where Savannah works. This is somebody connected to Tucson, and it just feels like it's somebody who either knew Nancy or knew of Nancy, that she had a famous daughter. And that's somebody in that Tucson area. So we talked about it on Friday, but it sure seems to me that if, and I want to say one other thing, that whoever wrote this is intelligent, is articulate, and I say that because the way that first ransom note is worded, it is well structured, the grammar is almost perfect, and it is somebody who is smart. And so if there's somebody in the Tucson area who noticed that somebody over the last week has gone MIA, who is smart and articulate, I don't know, that might be a lead. But it just feels like this is somebody who lived in that Tucson area. Or
a lot of people feeling like it's someone who is local, who knows the terrain. Let's listen to Megyn Kelly. She's going to talk with Brian Ensign, who's on the scene. Let's have a listen. Meg.
Host Savannah Guthrie, who authorities believe was forcibly removed from her home in Arizona a week and a day ago. She was last seen Saturday, January 31st, which is 9 days ago. And given that we know she lives with a pacemaker and has limited mobility, the outlook doesn't look good. I mean, her family said on day 1 that she has life-saving medication she needs, that she can't live without. And that was, last Monday. And here we are now, 9 days from the time she was last seen and 8 days from the confirmed disappearance. The latest from the Pima County Sheriff's Department on X, quote, no suspects, persons of interest, or vehicles have been identified. Not even a person of interest more than a week out. Do we believe that? I don't. Let's check in to see what Sheriff Chris Nanos was doing this weekend. Was he looking for a person of interest or a suspect? Let's see.
I don't think so.
Oh, it doesn't appear so. This is a picture obtained by Fox News Digital showing Sheriff Nanos at Saturday's University of Arizona men's basketball game, having a grand old time. I'm sorry, but that is completely tone deaf. I don't care that he needs to blow off steam. You know what? You know who really needs a release from the stress of this past week? Savannah Guthrie. Yeah. She's somebody who's actually really suffering, and that's obvious.
And remember, all these news people, Megan, everyone, they've all been colleagues. They've all worked around the same circles. They've all been colleagues. They go to the same awards. You know, they all know each other. So this is something that is quite personal to some of these journalists.
She's not going to be able to go to a sports game to take her mind off of it, Sheriff, because she needs you to do your job and to do it better before she can. I don't know what's happening. I'm praying every day that this is like an Idaho situation where the police look like nincompoops while on camera and behind the scenes they're solving it. I'm really praying that's what's happening and very open-minded to that actually
That's what happened with Brian Koberger.
Being the case. Very relieved that the FBI is on scene and working with this sheriff.
Exactly, Sting.
Because just the sheriff's own on-camera mistakes have been plenty. There have been plenty of them on very material matters. And so I've grown to the point where I really don't know that we should trust his word. And I also really do wonder how someone could be that tone deaf. If you want to go blow off steam in the middle of a very stressful, busy, possible murder, possible kidnapping situation, you should have dinner with your family. You should have friends over or go to somebody's house. You should not go out in public and cheer on a sports game. It looks insensitive, sir. The Daily Mail reporting this morning that the sheriff's 6-person homicide detective team handling the case lacks major case experience. The investigator leading the probe reportedly has been working homicides for just 2 years. The most experienced detective on the team has worked on murders for just 3 years. FBI Director Kash Patel is reportedly traveling to Arizona today, but we're told it's a previously scheduled trip unrelated to the Guthrie case. We do know that the FBI is on the case. We saw Mr. Yankee co-hosting that presser last Thursday. So let's hope one of or all of these law enforcement agencies figure out what exactly is going on there so that this family can have some relief. We walk you through the developments over the weekend in this morning's AM update, which is definitely worth your time this morning. But to quickly summarize, local Tucson station KOLD received another message purportedly from Ms. Guthrie's captors. And another Tucson station called KGUN, is reporting now that the original ransom note received last week demanded $1 million by last Thursday. And
I know it's difficult for some of the smooth brains in here, but just be respectful in the chat. Thank you.
Price went up to $6 million by 5 p.m. this evening. The threat, either implicit or explicit, no one's sharing exactly what else the note said, is that if they don't get this $6 million by 5 p.m. tonight, Nancy Guthrie will be killed, because their original note that had the $1 and $6 million demands, we are told, said she was okay, said they had her.
Like button.
Now, there's still no confirmation that whoever is writing these messages has or has ever had possession of Nancy Guthrie. None whatsoever. There's been no proof of life or even captivity. None. True. Notwithstanding that, Savannah and her siblings, Annie and Cameron, did put out a new video Saturday night, which we now know was in response to the second note, the contents of which no one's really sharing. I mean, it didn't go out loud. The first one went to TMZ and 2 others. The second note, which we know virtually nothing about, went only to the one station. And it said virtually nothing. I mean, not that it said virtually nothing. We know virtually nothing about what it said other than it tried to convince the media and ultimately the Guthries that it was being written by the same person who wrote the first note, which was a ransom note. We're told that note number 2 wasn't technically a ransom note. But again, we know almost nothing else about it. But we are now being told that this video I'm about to show you from the 3 siblings was a direct response to note number 2. Watch.
We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
I think we cut off the first line of that where she said, we heard you and we understand. In her note, she made clear that
That does appear to be a direct response to the ransom note.
Received the
We
second
understand.
note. Though again, they're not sending these to the family. They're sending them to the media. We're going to break down what's to glean from that with our law enforcement analyst later in the show. It's very interesting. She used the word celebrate with her. I mean, I think any Christian knows that's in this context could very well be a reference to a celebration of life.
There you go.
That you might have after someone has passed.
Thank you.
The whole tone of it sounded to me more like an acceptance that perhaps their mom is gone.
Right.
And that they will pay to receive her remains. That's just my own take on it. I could be totally wrong on that, but
That's kind of what I gleaned from it.
celebrate with her. I mean, it's such an odd word if they're really like, no one thinks that if Nancy Guthrie is returned, there's going to be a massive celebration. We're going to celebrate. I mean, like that's clearly not what she meant. The graveness of her manner and that of her brother and sister, I mean, completely appropriately grave in that message and in their look and their tone and in what they said, to me was telegraphing, we know she's no longer alive, but we want her back. We want her remains. We want to give her a proper burial. We want to have a celebration of life. That's how I read it, but we'll ask our experts in just a bit. Over the weekend on Friday,
It's the show logo.
there was a lot of activity
There you go.
in this case. On Friday night, authorities took possession of Nancy's blue Subaru from her garage. Very strange that it was still sitting in there. It's like the FBI got on scene last, Tuesday, and started to say, have we done a thorough search for all the evidence? Why is the victim's car still sitting in the garage? Well, she didn't drive it. Well, how do you know that? Was she possibly stored in the car for some period of time when she was a captive? Maybe they considered removing her from her garage with her own car. Who knows? I'm sure somebody got on scene and said, seems like something we might want to search for clues. And now they have. They've seized the car. Investigators reportedly also investigating a nearby Circle K convenience store in relation to either a person or vehicle of interest. Now, we had the locals, the workers at that Circle K speak to the media and say, yeah, law enforcement came by here and they wanted to know about a person who came by here, and we showed them a videotape and they took it. Now, I mean, again, the law enforcement is coming out saying there's no person of interest, there's no vehicle of interest, there's nothing. Now, we know they're lying to us, okay? Like, they're lying. Or they're using those terms as terms of art. Person of interest, vehicle of interest, suspect, like official suspect. We know that's not true. I mean, they are looking at various people.
And that's very interesting how she also, like we did earlier in the show, touch upon the point of it being a celebration of life, right? So that is a pretty ominous choice of verbiage, in my opinion.
Behind the scene, they've impounded in evidence Annie Guthrie's vehicle, now Nancy Guthrie's vehicle, and they're asking about a suspicious vehicle at the Circle K and seizing surveillance tape of it. They're just not going to tell us. So that's fine. They got to play their game. And I'm sorry, but the media is in a different game. We're in the we get to the bottom of it and find truth game. And I understand they don't want to tell us everything. That's fine. That's how it is in every case.
Mm-hmm.
Every case. Until they do want to use us, and then they start leaking
And some
to us.
questions about the vehicle is because the Pima County Sheriff, who first came onto the scene, did not lock down the crime scene. So a lot of people have been saying, a lot of investigators saying they sort of contaminated that crime scene.
At that stage yet. Saturday, we saw that new Savannah tape that we just played for you. Plus, the investigators were seen at Savannah's sister Annie's home until 10:30 p.m. local time. Reports were that they spent some 3 hours inside the home.
What?
Now, why would they go there in the evening when it's mostly dark? I mean, it's all dark, 7:30 to 10:30 this time of year. Rather than going during the day when it's easier to see. You're going to get caught by the press either way. The press is camped out there. They're not leaving. Could be they just got a tip that evening. But photography flashes could be seen by reporters who were outside the residence, as they have been. And law enforcement knew they'd be there. Yesterday, we saw law enforcement conduct a grid search and look into what appeared to be a manhole near Nancy's home, like a large, picture a manhole removed, and then you just see this perfect circular.
There's some comparisons to the Nick Reiner case here, where they, even though it's a family home and they gave permission, they still have to get the search warrant. They have to follow certain protocols.
Opening into the earth.
Even the FBI.
And there's been some debate about whether it was...
Even with exigent circumstances.
A septic tank. Although the man
the Circle K,
putting
sure,
materials down there wasn't wearing any sort of a hazmat outfit, which those who understand how this is done speculated meant this was not a septic tank, because he wouldn't have been doing that without any sort of mask or gloves or protective gear on, given the nature of a septic tank. So it could have just been a water tank.
Let's jump out to Brian, her take with
Daily,
Brian Ensign here.
DAILY.co/MK for...
All right.
Welcome back. Great to see you. So can you set the scene for us on Saturday night and what happened at Annie's home?
Yeah, Megan, it kind of came out of nowhere. I was over at Nancy's house, which is about 10 minutes away, and I got a call like something's going down at Annie's house. So
Brian Ensign, if you're not familiar with him, does a great job.
Raced over here. This is Annie's house behind me. And when I got here, there were 3 deputies that had just arrived. They have private security here. NBC hired private security, I'm told. And it seemed coordinated because the security guard just moved out of the way, let the 3 deputies in. And they had blue gloves on. They had some camera equipment that was in a case. They went inside and they were inside for 3 hours. They closed all the blinds. I could see them taking pictures. Yeah, there you go. Right. That's some of the stuff they brought out. I could see them taking pictures in the garage. You could see a flash from a camera, and then you could see them move throughout the house to other parts of the house because you could see the flash from the camera coming from around the blinds.
And it took about 3 hours?
Yeah, they were inside for 3 hours, and then they packed up and they left.
Guys.
They didn't say a word. And NBC is reporting today that it was consensual, that I guess it was worked out with the family that they were going to show up, which really doesn't surprise me because, again, just it didn't seem, it seemed like they knew they were coming. The security guard moved out of the way. They knew how to get into the house. There's no one at the house right now, so they went in on their own, and it all seemed like very coordinated.
Brian, where's the family?
It's a good question. We don't know. They were here. Savannah was at this house early last week with her sister, her sister's husband, and Cameron was here also. And this is where they filmed the first video because we saw them bring the ring light and the tripod in. And somehow they left without anyone really noticing. And it's interesting, there were more security guards here specifically hired by NBC when Savannah was here. There were 3 security guards. And then when she left, now there's only 1 security guard just sort of keeping an eye on the house and, telling people to stay back.
Well, it's interesting to watch NBC in the mornings on the Today Show to see what they're reporting on this case, because there's no question in my mind it will have been blessed by Savannah. There's zero doubt that they are asking her, are you comfortable with this? Are you okay? They would not want to upset her or get out ahead of their skis or go someplace where she didn't want it. And they were the ones who broke the news that the search of Annie's home was consensual as opposed to, via search warrant. So to me, I'm deducing, though I can't confirm it as an independent fact, that she doesn't want it looking like her sister or anybody living in that home, like the brother-in-law, are in any way in trouble. But that does not jive with Ashley Banfield's reporting about them considering Annie's husband, Tomas, and that he may, quote, be a prime suspect in this case. We're still investigating that too, Brian, and whether the brother-in-law is coming under the scrutiny of law enforcement. And all I can tell you is that I have reason to believe Ashley Banfield was onto something. I don't know that he did this, but I do believe her reporting that they are taking a very serious look at him. And he's been out of the picture.
But why?
I mean, he has not been in any of the videos. Has he been seen at all, Brian?
He hasn't been seen since I think it was Tuesday of last week. We got some photos of him outside the house here. He's very recognizable with this big beard. And he was outside with his wife, Savannah's sister.
So there is the son-in-law, the husband of Annie Guthrie.
Annie, and they were in the car together, but it's now been almost a week. And something else interesting, you mentioned how they the authorities went and retrieved the surveillance video from the gas station and that they were looking for someone. That gas station is a Circle K, and it's right around the corner from Annie's house. It's not close to Nancy's house. It's right around the corner from Annie's house, and it's where it's positioned is where you would have to drive to go from Nancy's house to Annie's house, which I think is really interesting. It's literally like 1 minute away from here.
Like and subscribe.
Here's what I want to know. I want to know whether anybody's been asked to give and or has given a polygraph. Not a peep about that. Is that correct? No one's saying a word.
Not a word. I interviewed yesterday a former homicide detective for Pima County who was there for 20 years and is now retired. And it's interesting what you were reporting in the beginning of your show. I mean, he says the same exact thing, that there's been so much turnover there, that it's a mess at the sheriff's office, and that most of the homicide detectives have like 2 years experience. And so he's concerned a lot of the veterans like him have left just because they've been upset with the department for different reasons. And there was a different sheriff, and then another sheriff came back, and it's been a mess there. But he was telling me that in his 20 years there, they never once administered a polygraph. That wasn't something that they did as a sheriff's office ever, not even once. I know. But I don't know if now that the FBI is involved, maybe they would be doing that.
I don't know, because while they suggested it was a joint investigation at the Thursday presser, FBI, Pima County, my understanding is it's Pima County running herd on this, that it's their investigation, their running point. And so that may tell us some unfortunate things. Here's the other thing I want to know. The Sunday discovery that Nancy was missing allegedly came down to someone at her church noticing she wasn't there and calling the family, which then sent the family to Nancy's home, which led to the discovery of the crime scene, however it looked. They haven't really told us what was inside the home. The Daily Mail and you also, we talked about this last week, reporting that Nancy Guthrie was actually was no longer attending the church that they said she was, and that in fact she'd been going virtual for the past 5 years since COVID. That she'd been participating in the live stream that this church offers. Leading us to ask, how would anybody have noticed that she wasn't on the live stream? Because it's not like a Zoom where you can see.
Yeah, I agree. The Pima County Sheriff really dropped the ball here, in my opinion.
People joining. Now, we did actually try to join it this weekend and realize that there's a chat. You can join a chat. So it is possible that somebody was in the chat. Look, maybe this is my own bias. The thought of my mom not only joining a live stream, who's 84, but actually then getting in the church chat during the mass and chatting, like it's an impossibility. Yeah. But maybe Nancy Guthrie was a lot more tech savvy than my 84-year-old mom could be. She had an Apple Watch. So I want to know whether the investigators have tracked down the alleged parishioner who's purported to have made the phone call. Brian, do we know whether that's happened?
It hasn't happened from what we know, and that's been one of the strange things about this is we've all, me and then all of my other colleagues, we all talk about it out on the street. We've all been trying to figure out this church element. Everybody has been to the church. Everybody has talked to the pastor, and the pastor has said that she went to the church, but that she hasn't come back in person since COVID, that she goes virtually, and no one seems to know that she went to another church. And the church over the weekend at their service, the pastor talked about Nancy, and it appears that's the church she goes to. And what I thought was interesting, Megan, is at the last press conference, the sheriff never brought up the church again. It's almost like he said that the first time right after this happened, but then no one ever talks about the church anymore. So we're going to cut away and look at some footage that I found right here about Nancy Guthrie actually appearing on the Today Show with her daughter, Savannah. Let's hear it.
And let's have the pie.
It's brought by Savannah's mom.
Savannah, I'm going to tell you. Are you kidding me?
It wasn't long after Savannah joined the Today Show family that we all fell in love with the matriarch of our own family, Nancy Guthrie.
Oh, the grandkids.
So this won't be one of those easy at-home recipes. No. Okay, tell me about what we have.
Not very healthy either.
Okay, that's fine. Not healthy and not easy.
A mother who loves her family fiercely. A woman with deep conviction who always tells the truth.
I want it to be God.
You want it to be, but Annie was.
Even worse, you were like a poser.
I was a poser.
She was a preppy poser.
I was. Mom, you're like killing my rep around here.
She's raised 3 kids with grace, grit, and resilience, always encouraging them to pursue their dreams.
It was really hard for me to leave her. And that's when she said, if you can't leave me, then I didn't do my job right, Savannah.
A champion for her family, but for us here at Today, too.
There's a #1 member of your book club who loves you more than anyone.
You would think it'd be my mother.
Nope, it is my mother. Her name is Nancy Guthrie.
Not only is Nancy an avid reader, she treasures her time with her friends over mahjong, a game she's played since the 70s.
Oh, mahjong.
Savannah, this is my original mahjong set that Dad brought me back from Singapore.
Nancy has shown us she's always curious and always up for an adventure, traveling back to Savannah's birthplace, Melbourne, Australia, on Today.
Seeing the very place you were born is not something most people get to do or
That's
see.
true.
To get to go back with my mom, it's just really special.
Special time. Amazingly awesome.
But Nancy's heart is in Tucson.
Well, Mom, you guys came here in the 70s and you had been moving all around. What made you want to stay in Tucson and plant roots?
And it's so wonderful. Just the air, the quality of life is laid back and gentle.
I was just thinking the same
Perhaps
thing, Tom.
her most
but
precious offering. Nancy's family has
I don't know
always
if one mahjong set really, would take it that far.
been guided by her deep, unwavering faith.
The greatest gift my mother gave me was faith and belief in God. It changed my whole life.
And her love.
My kids are absolutely amazing. So
They sure are
We want you to-
absolutely amazing.
Love you, Mama.
You know, I think for all of us who just have gotten to know her and love her, it is personal, and I love when she said Tucson was right for her because of how gentle it is.
Mhm.
Nancy was tough
Yes.
as the desert,
Yeah.
but she was so gentle too. And so we're just thinking of her and her family today.
I have to say, when I woke up this morning, like a lot of us, hoping for new information, and I, went to my phone and I saw Savannah's post. And Savannah's strength gave me strength.
Yes, right.
Her resolve, her faith. I mean, hello, she literally wrote the book on it.
And that came from Nancy.
Yes, and if you saw that clip where Savannah was talking with me on the 10, where she said she didn't want to leave her. That was after Savannah's dad passed, and Savannah wanted to go to college, but was worried about leaving her mom, and so she said, "Well, Mom, I can't leave you," and Nancy said, "You have to go," and I think that says everything. Where Savannah has come.
I saw that post at Savannah last night. I hit my knees and prayed, and I don't think I've ever prayed for anything harder in my life.
That's all we can do right now.
Yeah.
That's all they could do right now. Let's get back over to, that's very sad, man. That is just, oof. If you are a human being, that just hit you right in the chest.
I don't know. The sheriff made a lot of weird off-the-cuff remarks and mistakes. Like, I don't know if that's just something he said initially, and now there's another reason that the family was concerned that has nothing to do with the church. I just don't know.
Here's what he said when asked. The question was, have you interviewed the people that reported her, meaning Nancy, missing from the church? And he responded, we're doing all kinds of interviews. Yes, I'm sure we have. Okay, which is not actually a yes. That's not actually a yes at all. It's actually kind of disconcerting. And yet another thing that either they do need to do or they've done, and he's just not telling us. We don't know. So, Brian, what about today? The deadline now for this 5 p.m. $6 million payment is looming. And the Savannah...
We are now less than 1 hour away from this deadline or deathline that the alleged kidnappers have set. We are less than an hour away. And we still have no results in the Bitcoin account. No deposits have been made.
And siblings' video from the other night said, we will pay. It said, we'll pay.
Yeah.
But they've had no proof of life. They don't know whether these people actually have their mom. And so do we believe that they're actually going to pay $6 million in Bitcoin? Like, has any law enforcement spoken to this or shed any light on what the next step should be?
Yeah, I mean, Savannah said they will pay. Whether they end up doing it, we don't know. And it's interesting. You mentioned the local affiliate was reporting, I think you said it was 1 million and 6 million. That's a little different than what I've learned. I learned it was 4 million and 6 million. And 4 million was the first deadline on Thursday at 5 p.m. and 6 million is the deadline today. But that was in the first note.
Hit the like button for me,
and the
guys.
second note, while
almost at 300 likes, thank you so much.
We don't know exactly what it says. There are some indications that it, you know, based on what Savannah said in her video, the second note may have alluded to Nancy not being okay. And that's why I'm hearing they're not calling it a ransom note. They're just calling it a note.
It's 5 p.m. local Tucson time.
And there was no demand for payment in the second note. It was just a message to the family. It wasn't like, and you can still pay this amount by this time. So I don't, and also, is there a third note that we just don't know
Thank you,
about?
guys.
That's the other thing I've been wondering. Maybe they're just not reporting on it yet. And Savannah's video is responding to a third note.
I wonder the same, because some of the messaging is so like controlled and calculated. It almost seems like they're saying something can we watch the Savannah video one more time? Let's just watch it one more time.
We received your message and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace.
That gives me chills.
This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
And let's just cut to the latest video here from Savannah Guthrie from her Instagram.
Hi there, everybody. I wanted to come on and just share a few thoughts as we enter into another week of this nightmare. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for all of the prayers and the love that we have felt, my sister and brother and I, and that our mom has felt. Because we believe that somehow, some way, she is feeling these prayers, and that God is lifting her even in this moment and in this darkest place. We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where. And we need your help. So I'm coming on just to ask you, not just for your prayers, but no matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, if you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you,
it all seems
that you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation, and we need your help.
Wow. So let's head back over here and listen to some more from Brian Enton and Meg Kelly.
So first of all, it's incredibly grim. They're all very grim-faced. There's nothing about their expressions that telegraphs they've gotten any sort of hopeful news. We understand, she says, we understand in a sad, like, contemplative way. We beg you. She's begging them now, saying, give us our mother back so we can celebrate with her. Again, that word celebrate sticks out like a sore thumb, and it's the only way we'll have peace, which is another word associated with, I think, people who are, you know, grieving, having a settlement of the grief, even if it's a sad settlement, but just a settlement, like, you know what's happened and you can be at peace with it. To me, that's what she was telegraphing. But you're right, we don't know what was in the note. Wait, but Brian, the $4 million would make more sense to me than 4 and 6 makes more sense to me than 1 and 6. Because I have to tell you, you know, I've had this conversation behind the scenes with a few different people. Let's face it, $1 million is not much for Savannah Guthrie. She can lose that easily and not really even feel it. So, like, if that were the initial demand, I think they would have just paid it. They would have just paid it on Thursday.
Really, Op-Ed? Really? I feel sorry for you, Op-Ed.
4 million is a different That's a different.
You're a fucking
I mean, that's a
clown.
lot more.
Yeah, and I'm confident in my reporting. The person who I spoke to saw the note himself. So I'm sure it was 4 million and 6 million. And I can't remember if I talked to you about this last time, but the other thing that was in the first note that was so alarming to the FBI, there's two things. One, the location of the Apple Watch inside Nancy's room was very, very specific. And the other thing is they specifically referenced a damaged, smashed floodlight in the backyard, which has since been removed up on the back of Nancy's house, which is smashed. So those two things were spot on in the first note, which appears to be why they've.
She's a woman, you idiots. She's going to put on makeup before she goes on camera. You fucking dummies. Jesus Christ.
Been taking all of this so seriously.
But Brian, don't you think, like, okay, so the floodlight is visible from the outside.
Stupid.
You know, people were crawling
You
all over the
obviously
property.
aren't around women much.
And especially, you know, Monday. I think the first notes came Tuesday. So you would have just had to see it on sometimes Sunday or Monday. Or prior to that. You know, potentially you could have seen it prior to that if you were a contractor taking advantage of the family's pain here and you'd been inside the house. You might know about that floodlight, and you might know where she keeps her Apple Watch at night. The thing that I can't get past.
I like to interact with the chat a little bit. I could just ignore it if I wanted to, but you know.
Is if
yes, she has come on, she has had makeup on every time. Okay.
I stole somebody and I needed to give proof of life so that I could get millions of dollars, I would ask that person questions that only that person would know the answers to. And I would put that information in my note. Like, information above all would be proof of life, not where, like, who would say where she keeps the Apple Watch or that a floodlight had been damaged as their, aha, it is I've got your person proof.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point. You'd think there'd be something more specific, you know, and initially, you know, they really wanted to open these lines of communication. But you'd imagine if there really is a kidnapper, they would be hesitant to do that because, you know, the FBI is trying to track. And I don't know if you knew this, Megan, but we found out through the news director of KOLD, which is where both notes went, that it wasn't submitted through like an email. It came through a news tips form that you fill out on the website of, you know what I mean? Like you can fill out your name, subject.
Both notes or just the second one?
Both notes. They went to KOLD at least. I don't know if it's the same with TMZ. So I think that makes it harder to track. And they used, you know, a scrambler for the IP address because it was different IP addresses both times. So if they, you know, I don't know that you can attach a picture that way.
I know. And I don't even think you need a picture, though. Like, if somebody had a relative of yours or anybody or mine or anybody listening,
if
we
screaming
all
people
know
in the chat were on this case, they would never find her, which I'm glad some of you people in the chat are not on this case, to be honest.
Things they could ask the relative. Like, if anybody who I know very well, a family member, needed to prove through a kidnapper that it was them, that they were with the kidnapper, they absolutely could do it with information, with references, you know, with like family jokes. Like it would be easy. And so just the fact that this person has gone with something so weird, like an outside flood.
Yeah, proof of life at this point would be easy to establish because they could just simply say, okay, we'll ask her this question. They would never know to ask those questions previously to sort of set up, you know? So I think a proof of life would be a lot easier to find than one would realize.
Floodlight and the location of an Apple Watch. What is that? That proves to me you've been to the house. And it looks like you've been in the house. But think of the number of contractors an 84-year-old has going through her home. You can do very little as an 84-year-old. She probably has somebody help her change her light bulbs. She definitely has somebody change her air filters. Her air conditioner goes on the fritz. Somebody comes in. The person who may have changed the roof recently, as the neighbor observed. It's like the list is so long. But now we're talking about somebody who's taking advantage of the family's pain and not necessarily the person who's causing it.
Well, or is all this just a sideshow, Megan? I mean, I've been thinking about this all weekend. You know, is all of this just something that the FBI has to look into?
And by the way, he is right out in front of Nancy Guthrie's home there.
Savannah and her family have to respond to, because you put yourself in their shoes, you know, just in case, how could you not? What if in the 1% chance it is true, you know, you want to respond, you want to try, but is there a whole nother side of this investigation happening that, like you mentioned at the beginning, we just don't know about? I mean, them
I
coming
believe there is 100% a full investigation that we do not know about. They're not going to say it. They're going to keep it close.
here to the house, you know, at 9 o'clock at night on a Saturday out of nowhere. The only thing that I'm skeptical about that, though, is that it was these
That's a good point, Lashina.
3 sheriff's deputies who were just kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I saw the raid at Nancy's house.
Excellent
I shouldn't
point.
say raid, but I saw when the FBI team showed up, it was like insane. I mean, it was a full-on FBI. They were in their special outfits. They were in the fancy vans and the evidence unit, and the tape goes up, and it felt so organized. Here on Saturday night, it was just these 3 deputies. I mean, I hate to say this, but their cars were a little beat up, and they get out and they kind of wobble in, and like, if this was so serious here, why didn't the FBI come here? Like, there's a lot I can't figure out.
And all we know, so like from what you could tell from outside, was that they were taking pictures on the inside, right? Like, could you tell whether they were spraying chemicals or, you know, anything like that inside?
No. And I've heard people say, you know, could it be luminol? You know, they do that at night sometimes to, you know, so that they can use a black light and see if there's blood inside. That could be one of the reasons they came at night, or maybe, like you said, they may have just gotten some piece of information and they said, let's go out there.
We are now approximately 45 minutes away from the final ransom deadline.
Or like what feels like the rest of this investigation, maybe they're just realizing, oh God, we forgot to do this. How have we not done this yet? We got to go out and get pictures of the inside of the house just in case. Just like they didn't tow Nancy's car until Friday night, which it's like, why wouldn't they have done that earlier in the week? And I mentioned that former homicide detective I spoke to. He's in shock. He's like, how was all of this stuff not done within the first 48 hours? Why are they going back and doing all these things days later? And you mentioned the sheriff at the basketball game. You know, that was around the time Savannah released this second video. So he's at the basketball game. It's the same time, Megan. He's at the basketball game as you see Savannah holding her siblings' hands, you know, maybe saying that they think Nancy's dead. Like, come on, dude.
Wow, now that you put it that way, that is certainly very bad optics.
Dude, like, what are you doing, you know?
And we're going to go to an investigator here who talks about how the Guthrie family needs to prepare for the worst. Here we go.
I don't think she was kidnapped. We would have heard, listen, there would have been a video, there would have been a photograph, there would have been something, a lock of hair, a drop of blood, something mailed to somebody so they could verify, yes, in fact, these people have my mother. Kidnappers want to get paid quickly. They don't want this thing to linger.
That's a good point. They don't want it to drag on.
Negotiating with another drug dealer in South America somewhere, it could go on for a few weeks, a month, until they get bored and decide this is not worth it. And it's either pay up or we're going to kill this person. And it's always a negotiation, right? The first figure they throw out is never what actually gets paid, like any good business deal. There's going to be a negotiation, but it's going to be a fast and hard one. And there's been no negotiations. No one's called up and said, hey, where's my money? That hasn't happened. For the simple reason is nobody's kidnapped her, I don't think. If you're a good kidnapper, you're going to grab the medication on the way out the door.
Right.
Because you're going to have to take care of her. You're going to have to keep her alive and healthy, right? So it shows a total lack of planning. The total lack of forensic evidence of anyone being in that house, of grabbing her, is another clue that she wasn't kidnapped. You know, you walk in somewhere, you're going to leave something. I don't care who you are. You're going to leave some DNA, some footprints, some fingerprints, blood if anyone gets cut on glass or whatever. You know, listen, the FBI is great at crime scene processing. They've been processing this thing for, 6, 7, 8 days now. They've got nothing.
Wow.
If they had something, we'd have heard about it. The problem was it became public very quickly. And my guess is the Russians or Nigerians said, oh, hey, here's an opportunity to make a few dollars. We don't have a body. We don't have proof of anything. We're just going to hope that they panic and pay us. Her mother would be an attractive kidnap target, except for the fact that, well, you kidnap somebody like that and you better batten down the hatches because, man, everybody's coming for you. Everyone. The entire law enforcement apparatus of Arizona is in gear, the FBI, probably ATF, probably DEA, everyone's jumping on this bandwagon. I mean, there's probably 500 people assigned to this case right now. I don't think anybody in position of authority believes she's alive at this point. And no one wants to say it publicly. This is the problem, right? Listen, when you see the FBI on the roof a week later and helicopters have been filming that roof for nonstop for 7 days, we're reaching. They got nothing else to do. They've got nothing left. And someone said,
hit that like button for me, guys. Thank you.
Hey, get up on the roof, take a look again. Well, I'm sure somebody did take a look for cell phones or any evidence of someone coming off the roof after she came home. Great place to hide, right? I mean, all the technology we have turned up nothing. A lot of that is because she lives in an area that has light pollution issues and they don't want lights. So ring cameras don't work, surveillance cameras don't work. I mean, they've got nothing. They've got no film. They got no evidence that she was taken by anybody at this point, other than some hokey ransom letters, which aren't saying anything except send us money to this untraceable account. I think, unfortunately, it's going to end badly. Mrs. Guthrie is probably going to be found deceased somewhere. I doubt she walked off and someone picked her up and, they're eating tea and cupcakes somewhere in Arizona area. I very much doubt it. I mean, she has medical issues. I think if she was taken, we'd pretty much know for sure at this point she was really taken. There'd be some forensic evidence to help indicate that happened.
Good point.
Because the feds aren't talking about it, I'm pretty sure there's no forensic evidence indicating she was kidnapped at all. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. It doesn't bother me to be wrong. Seldom am I wrong.
Wow. So let's get back over here with Meg with another guest.
What do you make of it, Dan?
It's heartbreaking. I saw hundreds of these pleas from families from all over the world to try and bring their loved one home that was taken hostage by the likes of Al-Qaeda and other jihadist groups in Iraq. So it's troubling because it's the pain and anguish of not knowing, and it brings back a lot of flashback of a lot of memories. But you can never give up hope. We had cases where there was a deadline set. Presumably, we know this group harmed, Miss Guthrie in the initial abduction because there was blood left at the scene, and we only know what blood was left outside. We don't know anything about what's done.
Boy, that last guy talking puts that's a whole new spin on it, huh?
And been done forensically inside the house. So that's my biggest concern, is that the propensity for violence from the get-go is why everyone should be very concerned. And not so much because of the deadline, but because that the group's doing this has already shown they're willing to be violent with an 84-year-old woman, grandmother as well.
So, I mean, one of the big questions here is, are the people torturing the family with these notes the same people that have or hurt Nancy Guthrie 8.5 days ago? I was saying to Brian Enton in the first segment, Dan, I just have a really hard time believing the people writing these notes were involved in Nancy's kidnapping or whatever happened to her, because
that last guy we saw was a salty old investigator who was just telling it like it is.
Saying that if I had Nancy Guthrie, if I went to the trouble to kidnap somebody and then wanted to prove to somebody that I had her, I would not be referencing some damaged floodlight or where her Apple Watch was in her home. That's bullshit. That's the kind of stuff
there you
managed to see through a window. And to me, it sounds like you're trying to sound like you know more than you do. If you've got Nancy, you can ask her anything that would prove to her 3 children who know her better than anybody that you actually have her. You don't have to do a picture. You don't need a video. Right. You just need her to tell you things only the children and the mother would remember from their childhoods.
I agree 100%.
100%. And that's you're not a H&R, a K&R background or hostage negotiator, but I had that suspicion. What do we from almost day
K&R is kidnap and rescue.
When the first ransom note came out. First off, they sent the ransom note to TMZ, a tabloid network, and then the local news media. All right, that's not how K&R Kidnap for Ransom works. If kidnapping is a business around the world, and the groups that do the kidnapping they have the prize. They grab the prize and they want to keep that prize protected. And they want to demonstrate to the prospective buyer, payer, that we have who you're looking for. Let's start the negotiation. And you come out with a large number. That $4 million initial to $6 million, the latest ransom demand, that's not outside the norm range for an American, because that's, this is a big business. And because obviously Savannah Guthrie, big news network, morning show host, she's going to
Why would they want to hang on to her for so long? Why would they want that? See, I believe that she passed away that night. The night that they say she was taken, I believe they may have even disposed of her somewhere. And a lot of these experts are saying something very similar, is they just need to prepare for the worst, which is unfortunate.
Have the resources to probably come up with that kind of money, and that's what they're counting on. But then you've got to negotiate in good faith. And from no way, shape, or form has the group that is claiming to hold her been operating in good faith. And the fact that they haven't been able to provide a substantial proof of life, or even trying to submit some AI version of it, which could have been, suspect that they're trying to do this. But I am suspect that the group that has her is the group that took her responsible for abduction is the group that is sending these messages. They may be related, but I really think this is part of the show and drama to drive up this news media story.
I'm starting to think like it's somebody else completely who is jumping on some, bandwagon of opportunity in this situation.
And why is that happening? Let's go to the underlying motives. And the motives may not be money. And I don't think it's money they want here. I think they want the news media attention, focus on this case, to maybe get some other news stories off the net. And then go, why did they target, Savannah Guthrie? And you have to look at, well, she's not a controversial figure like yourself, or say a Candace Owen, where you have people on the left or right. I mean, just being honest, that you've got enemies. You've got people that don't like you. But, Savannah Guthrie is... I don't watch her morning show, but I know who she is, and she's like a very nice lady. And, what's the most controversial thing she's ever done? Maybe some of her interviews in the past.
Well, I mean, she's not controversial, but that doesn't rule out some freak stalker who just interpreted some report she did as an attack, or as some sort of, that element is still...
That's what I was saying earlier, a stalker.
Alive and well around her, and we can't rule that out, that it's some stranger who's obsessed with her.
Oh, of course. But then why are you going after the mother unless you're trying to hurt her? So who has a reason to want to hurt Savannah Guthrie? Wouldn't it be the list would not be long, but go to some of her interviews. And I'm not the one coming up with this, because this conversation I've had, with virtually everyone I've talked to, especially offline, when you don't have a 2-minute segment on a news channel. She interviewed a lot of the Epstein victims, in-depth interviews with Virginia Giuffre and some of the other women. And what came out a week before this abduction, days before, the Epstein files, all over the news, and now what is taken over the news media. And maybe that was done intentionally. I'm not saying that's the case, but there's more to this group. I do not think it's a traditional kidnap for ransom. They're not demonstrating any of the things that are normally associated with people that are in the kidnapping business to make money. And I think it's the media attention. But you have to go into it that there are evil people out there that will do terrible things to wonderful human beings. I dealt with that. We had a woman in Iraq. Her name was Margaret Hassan. She was the director of Care International. She was a 5'1", 180-pound Irish woman who'd lived in Iraq for 20 plus years and married a local. She lived the fourth pillar of Islam, which is zakat. She gave alms to the poor. She fed the poor. She was a beloved woman, and that did not protect her. She was murdered by her captors, and I'm one of the few Americans who sadly had to watch that execution video, and it was very troubling, very sad. So there's evil in the world, and no matter how good you are, that doesn't protect you from someone that wants to hurt you.
That's true.
So if you were advising this family at this point, and we are told that the second note did not contain proof of life, that they're revealing very little about it, but we are told it did not contain proof of life. And we know the first letter said they had Nancy and claimed she was alive, I believe, but did not have proof of life. You saw the video from the family begging for such proof after they received the first note. Would you advise them to pay? Because right now, it's the day of the deadline for Force 1 on Friday. Here it is.
President, you promised Savannah Guthrie's family the full support of federal law enforcement. FBI is now...
I'll give you a little statement. I think we're doing very well on that regard. You're probably surprised to hear that. I think we're doing very well. Very well, meaning We have some clues, I think, that are very strong, and I think we could have some answers coming up fairly soon.
Is this a nationwide search? Is this a search going to Mexico?
I'm not talking about a search. I'm talking about a solution. We have some things I think that will maybe come out reasonably soon from DOJ or FBI or whoever that could be
suspect.
Yeah, could be definitive. Yes, a lot's taken place in the last couple of hours. A lot of things have happened with regard to that horrible situation in the last couple of hours.
Okay. A lot in there. We're doing very well. We have clues that are very strong. We could have answers very soon. I'm not talking about a search. I'm talking about a solution. We have things that may come out that could be definitive. Is there a suspect? And he quickly says, yeah. It's almost as an aside. He says, yeah, things that could be definitive. And then he mentions FBI and DOJ. So let's get right to it, Jim. What does that mean? What did?
And that conversation that they had earlier about professional kidnappers and kidnapping is an industry in its own right, and it has certain rules. It has certain protocols that people follow. They don't want to hang on to their victims for long. They want to get paid and they want to get out of there.
Did you take away from that?
Yeah, I'm racking my brain, Megan, if I've ever worked a case in which the president directly involved himself. And there's some big ones I worked, and the DC sniper and anthrax all happening in the DC area, but I don't remember direct and where sort of promises are made. I won't call them promises. Look, I think President Trump's heart is in the right place. The Guthrie family wants to hear something positive, but you got to be careful with creating too high of expectations. And I guess that was Friday from what you said. So we're looking at now 72 hours since he made that statement. There may be some investigators not happy he made that statement, but he said it was definitive or things definitive could happen, yet he was sort of vague at the same time. So sometimes investigators, you can actually plan sort of leaks, if you will, to sort of force the hand of a bad guy, whoever they are. I mean, usually it's someone holding someone in custody, someone's presently in danger. I can't imagine someone reaching out to the president, hey, could you drop these lines for us? But no doubt he's in touch with Kash Patel, Pam Bondi. They're in touch with the people in the field on the street there, and he's echoing something. He wants to give the nation something positive to think about, and I'm not saying he's lying. He's not at all. There may be things that have been developing, but it's a slow burn here, and everyone wants to make everything right.
I don't think President Trump was lying at all. I think President Trump was telling the truth. I think President Trump was excited that he thought we were about to have a breakthrough on this case. And I don't think his people would have told him that if it weren't true. And he's the one who mentioned FBI and DOJ. Yep. So it could have been either one or both. It could have been, obviously we know the FBI is there on the ground and co-hosted the presser that happened on Thursday, but they answer to the DOJ. All their work, if it comes to something, would ultimately be coming to something for the DOJ to potentially do something about it. So they could be equally informed. So who knows? But I don't think for one second, Chad, that President Trump would have said that if he hadn't been briefed in a way that was promising and that he was feeling like we're getting there. The thing that I found most interesting was if I were Savannah Guthrie and I heard that, I would pick up the phone in a second and call him. He called her last week to tell her whatever you need. And I'd say, what do you have? And then President Trump's in a tough spot because maybe he's not ready to reveal that yet, no matter who it is. And now you're talking to the victim of the crime. I don't know. But what did you glean from it?
Let's go right to the scene here. This is right outside.
Search properties around here. Will they go back
of the Guthrie home?
Do another look at the property here.
This is JLR Investigates.
Authorities are very tight-lipped. We haven't had a press conference all weekend on this matter. Where is Nancy?
And here we are. This is the scene of the crime. Unbelievable.
Now, as the it starts to get a little bit cooler, I'll navigate closer, but I like this view. I don't necessarily like the guy in front of me, but you can see these shady spots. Got to be in the shade here. Your equipment.
Yeah, definitely warm out there. Here are a couple points from Law and Crime.
We received your message, and we understand. We beg you.
According to the FBI, the notes had 2 deadlines. One was for Thursday last week. The second one is for about 24 hours from now.
We are less than 30 minutes away from this deadline,
which would be Monday. I'll have more on when on Monday those notes may be demanding the ransom money. Now, the first of the alleged ransom notes that were sent out, there were notes that were sent out early last week to at least 2 television stations in Tucson and to TMZ. Then you had a second ransom note that was sent to 1 local television station in Tucson, and that went out on Friday of last week. But let's talk about the first ransom note that was sent to TMZ, because TMZ has been somewhat public with what the note entailed, even though they did say that the FBI has asked them not to share certain amounts of information. They say that the note demanded a large amount of money to be paid in Bitcoin sent to a Bitcoin wallet.
And as we close in on this deadline here, you know, this is not just another news cycle tonight. This is a countdown. And somewhere a clock that is tied to Nancy Guthrie's life is running down. A faceless stranger, perhaps, deciding how this ends. A family is begging, a president is promising, and the FBI racing towards a deadline. And they don't care about press conferences or politics. They just want results. So I will be following every credible update on the ransom demand, the FBI search, and I will be back on live the moment something else breaks, good or bad. If you want to stay ahead of this story, instead of catching the recap tomorrow, make sure you're subscribed, turn on all your notifications, hit the like so this stream keeps reaching people into the replay. I want to thank everybody for coming out and joining me. Drop your final thoughts in the comments and in the live chat here before we take off. If the kidnapper is watching this right now, what's the one thing that you would say to them? All right, so thank you for watching. Be nice to each other in the comments. I know that's hard sometimes. And just remember, behind every update is an 84-year-old woman who just wants to come home. All right, so I thank you all for joining me. Take care of yourself. Be good to each other. I will see you on the next one. Thank you very much.